Hey everybody, what's
Hello.
up?
Hi,
I'm Aiden Mattis. This is Wendigoon.
I'm Aiden Mattis.
No, wait. Who am I?
You're Aiden Mattis,
What?
right?
Yeah?
I'm Aiden Mattis. Welcome to the Lore Lodge. Is this
I have
live?
been completely through. This is live, yes.
I should probably tweet a link to it. I should have done that in the previous 5 minutes. I forgot to do that.
I am already completely thrown off. Like,
I see the gourd jokes.
for those
up.
seeing
Let's
the
go.
gourd jokes, if you don't understand the gourd reference, we talked about Jonah on the last one, and there is a line in Jonah 4:9, where the Lord himself asks, dost thou well to feel pity for the, or dost thou well to feel anger for the gourd?
Anger for the gourd. That's right. Great band name.
Yeah. So I saw somebody wanted us to make a pity for the gourd
Yes. Absolutely.
t-shirt. That will happen, I promise. But yeah,
I'm being productive.
I think all of us are Aiden at this point. I'm kind of like Spartacus. But yeah, that's how.
Yeah.
Tonight we're going to be talking about the fall of Jericho, which is probably one of the only Bible stories that I remember hearing most recently from Ancient Aliens of all places. I'm not saying that's a good thing. Just saying, like,
I can't stand you.
it's well, I love how you read the book. You're like, oh, this is such an interesting story. I wonder what the symbolism behind the 7 days of trumpeting and the trumpeting 7 times around the city and all that. And then Ancient Aliens is like, the Ark of the Covenant was a nuclear super weapon.
Is that what their take is?
Yeah. That it was like some sort of super weapon, and that it generated this sound blast that knocked it over the walls.
I did my productive stuff. It's really not that complicated. It's just like, this is a sacred box.
Yeah.
And Ancient Aliens is like
No, it's a super weapon.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
He
literally.
was there.
Literally how they deal with it. I think it's phenomenal.
Oh look, you got a fellow goat man.
We're not goat people.
Yeah, well, okay, sorry, you saxed the goats.
Gosh.
I forget how that works.
Did I ever tell you the story of the night that I joined the Masons? My buddy who talked me into it texted me, or I texted him, and I was like, I'm about to go into, do the initiation process, and he's like, oh, cool. I don't know if you'll be able to handle the goat though. And I was like, Jack, what
He knew.
I'm like,
He knew.
I'm like, Jack, what do you mean the goat? And he just ghosted me. He just gave me the red receipt.
That guy's good.
It's like that's funny.
He's
It's evil, but it is in
one
fact
of the good
funny.
ones. He's one of the good ones. One of the good
Come
goat
on,
people.
Oh my God, I'm Aiden. He's Aiden.
Someone
We're
said-
all
someone-
Aiden.
Stop it. Someone said wrong drink. I will do Dr. Enough again when they sponsor me. Until then, I don't even know what a Dr. Enough is. Unless there's one in the fridge, which I find in a moment, then I will. In which case, I will know what
Like,
they are.
I can't give up Doctor Enough any time that there is none present for me to drink.
Correct. I'm on a strike until I find it again.
It's not enough. It's never enough.
Never enough.
All right, but I'm gonna grab myself a cherry Coke. Do you want to tell the people what we're talking about tonight in more detail?
Yes, I will. Well, I thought you were about to fall. That would have been great content. Do that on your way back. So tonight we are going to be talking about Joshua and the Wall of Jericho. Now, Joshua, if you've been watching the previous episodes that we've done over on the Lore Lodge, or this channel that you're watching now, you'll know that we've been covering Moses and a lot of the stuff that the children of Israel have been doing on their way out of Egypt. Well, this is immediately following the Exodus. Immediate's relative, like 40 years later. It's following the Exodus of Egypt and is immediately after Moses' death. Whatever I have Jonah on the brain.
You're trying.
Joshua, thank you, takes over as the leader of the people of Israel. And Jericho is actually their first military campaign or conquest that they go on. And we're going to talk about how that goes today. It's really weird.
Yeah. Well,
It's the title of this podcast.
it is the Weird Bible.
It's the Weird Bible podcast.
I think, as we tend to do with these historical books of the Bible, it's important to set the scene. We're looking at sometime after 1180 BC. So this is the peak of the Bronze Age collapse. The world that the Egyptians, the Jews, the Greeks, everyone knew was coming crashing down. And it wasn't just one cause. This is a lot like World War One, where there were numerous threads that all came together to cause a cataclysm.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, we've got famines, we've got trade breaking down, diplomatic ties between countries falling apart, people's religions are beginning to clash as they become more and more complex. There's a group of mysterious sea people attacking the coastlines. It's just chaos left and right. It is bedlam. And amidst all of it, God has brought the Jews out into the desert because Moses was not being a good leader, and he was like, you're not going to be allowed to see the Holy Land. So
for 40 years.
Yeah.
We'll get to see it after that.
Yes.
You specifically
will not see
correct.
it. Everyone else will see it.
They'll get there.
Which, rude, but acceptable.
There's actually an interesting mention in some of the verses we're going to look about today that implies all the people who were born in Egypt are dead.
Yes.
Like at this point, yeah. So the only ones who are still there,
all the men
yes, all the men who were born in Egypt are dead.
Yeah. So of course nobody's circumcised. So
Correct.
They've got to recircumcise everybody.
Yeah, which happens.
It is a little funny.
The thing that goes down.
You start Joshua. I love how there's some books of the Bible that kind of like take a while to get into the meat of things, and with Joshua, it's just like, so Moses just died, and you got to circumcise everybody because we're going to war.
It's not even mentioned, like, we're not even going to like cover it today, but the opening verse of Joshua is, now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass, the Lord spake unto Joshua, and that's it. It starts there. Not Moses dead, I'm in charge, let's go. Yeah.
And we don't even get an account of Moses' death, do we?
We do in
Joshua. Joshua's just dead.
No, Deuteronomy. Yes, we get one at the end of Deuteronomy, but not from Joshua's account. Yeah. Correct. So the death of Moses, the ending of Deuteronomy. This is outside of what we're talking about today, but
it's context.
It's context, yeah. So thank you for making me sound smart. So it says that in chapter 34, which is the last chapter of Deuteronomy, it says Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto the mount of Nebo, to the top of Pisgah that is over Jericho, and the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead unto Dan. So that's like a grand vision that God gives Moses in his final moments.
Yeah.
And it says, and all the lands of blah, 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 a bunch of different places named. It says, and the Lord said unto him, this is the land which I swear unto Abraham. Which this is a beautiful moment, by the way, to like read the Bible through and to know that all the way back at Abraham, he said, your descendants, if they follow me, will inherit the promised land. I promise you. And in spite of everything they've done wrong, God's still fulfilling that promise. Yep. So he's saying to Abraham, who is now the patriarch of those people, this is the land I swore. Moses. What did I say?
Abraham.
He's saying to Moses, I don't have my doctor enough right now. He says to Moses, this is the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go on over thither, which is the thing that was discussed. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died where? In the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, over against Peth-peor, but no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. Yeah. Which is a wild verse. The idea that Moses was buried by God directly in this valley. And to this day, no one knows where it is. And then when you read the account in Jude, all the way at the end of the Bible,
they still don't know.
They still don't know where it's at, correct. But it says that Michael buried him. Yeah. Which the idea of the archangel of the Lord himself dragging Moses' body off that mountain and burying him in a place no man could find is... I love cool. it. It's so cool, yeah.
It's a pretty cool scene.
And not only that, but it says in Jude that the devil contested for the body of Moses.
Yeah.
Like, it's not said here in Deuteronomy, but in Jude, it says that whenever Moses went to bury, or whenever Michael went to bury Moses, that the devil fought him over it and said, he doesn't deserve it because he's a murderer. talking to about Moses, because whenever Moses left Egypt, he had killed an Egyptian to escape. So the devil's saying, you don't need to give him this honor. He's just a murderer. And Michael tells him that their day of reckoning has not yet come, which,
I love that because Michael's literally like, shut up, Beelzebub.
Literally, yeah. Michael's like, look, we know how this story ends. Shut up. This isn't your game. You're not even playing.
They're like, you've been doing this since we were children.
Yeah, pretty much. Someone, after I did the Paradise Lost video, there's a scene in it where Gabriel grabs Lucifer, and he's like, it is for your insolence, for your petty, that we're here, that the garden is the last holdout of free will, blah, blah, blah. And someone took you've seen Breaking Bad, right? You know the scene where Mike's yelling at Walter? He's like, if you would have shut up, did your part, played the role. Someone sent me that video, but they photoshopped Lucifer and Michael's like artwork over him. We'd all be fine. We had a lab. We had guns.
Everything was going so well.
You and your pride and your ego, which is weirdly aptly fitting.
There's another Unto This Day that I think is really interesting because it shows you how recently after the events of Jericho the book of Joshua was written, because her name's Rahab, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The harlot, we'll use that term, the biblical term.
Yeah.
Who takes in the 2 spies that Joshua sends into the promised land. Her name is Rahab.
Right.
And she brings them in, and the men of Jericho come looking for them, because they're like, we know there are spies of the Hebrews here. We've been told to cast them out, and execute them and all that. And she hides the 2 spies on her roof under a pile of flax rods. And then the soldiers pass by. She says, I don't know where they are. They were here, but they're gone now. If you go that way, you'll catch them. And then she lets them out, but she says, hey, since I scratch your back, you want to scratch mine and make sure that that I live. But hidden within that, there is a conversation where she recognizes the God of Israel. And historically, we know that at least as early as the 800s BC, the people of Canaan did worship a god by the same name as the Hebrew God, Yahweh. And this would imply that several hundred years, even earlier than that, they were aware of him and that he was considered part of their pantheon. Now, a lot of people have taken the opposite tack on this and said, oh, well, the Jews took Yahweh from the Canaanites. No, there's no evidence of Yahweh with the Canaanites prior to the 800s. Now, this implies that they did know about him.
Right.
But what it also seems is that the worship of this specific deity that the Hebrews considered the one true God had spread. According to this book. Now, as we know, later on, the same exact group of people will end up worshiping that god as part of their pantheon. But this tells us that perhaps that was going on even earlier, and it allows us to date the book because after the events that we're going to talk about, there is a line that says that Rahab is dwelling within the tents of Israel to this very day.
Right.
Yeah, so we know that this is written within, this is written within the lifetime of these people.
So Rahab has to be alive by the way it's written at the time Joshua was written. Interesting. Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. Because a lot of these post-Pentateuch books, maybe not Judges because that covered a lot of time, but like Ruth, Esther, stuff like that were written pretty quickly, to my understanding, after the events happened. And Joshua was one of them. Yeah, that's a good point to make.
Yeah, it's very cool to come across it, and it's like, oh, this was written like
this is pretty quick.
At the very least, the oral tradition was established, but they're afraid. The people of Jericho, they know what's coming. The king, however, is obstinate and doesn't see this as a problem. He's got his own gods. This is kind of how a lot of people dealt with being approached by the Israelites. Was, well, yeah, your God's real, but so is mine.
Right. Yeah.
This is how the Vikings, by the way, approached the Christians.
Correct. Yeah.
And it did not go well for them either.
It did not. Thank you for ever said that we make in and in hard. Fantastic.
Makes what hard?
November. No something. There you go. Figured it out.
Ryan.
Anyway. So what's interesting about a lot of the accounts you'll see throughout the Bible, especially around now, is whenever they approach him, there's never the argument of like, well, your God's not real, or like, my God is real. It's always like, well, mine's better than yours. Because there's this like pantheon-esque understanding or belief.
The way that the ancient world, that religions interacted, is it was very much, my dad could beat up your dad.
Yeah,
like that's really the attitude a lot of them had. Everyone's gods were real. It was just mine are better than yours.
Right.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah. I think so. Okay, so do you want to get into it now, or
sure?
Or did you have more?
No, I mean I think that's the important stuff for the context. People understand when this is occurring, why it's occurring. The Israelites have not yet entered the Promised Land, but this is pre the split we talked about in Jonah, so they're still one people.
Right. Okay.
But they enter into the Promised Land. The very first city they come across is the city of Jericho. And Jericho it's established. It's got walls. It is a strong Bronze Age city. We hear about the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Moabites and the Amorites, all of these different groups who live in this area. Now, the Hittites, of course, the Hittite Empire would have been collapsing around this time period into its various successor states, which would have all still been Hittites. But you're likely, the Hittites that are being talked about in this book are likely not the Hittites that we talked about in last night's podcast, where I'm talking about Darren Kuyu and all of that, for anybody who watched that. So they go into the land, and it's not said exactly who Jericho belongs to, but it seems to be implied that Jericho belongs to Canaanites because they have acknowledgement of Israel as God. They know who it is. The Hittites might be a little bit more on that, so it seems implied it's Canaanites. Phoenicians, Proto-Phoenicians. This would have been about the time that the Phoenicians were starting to expand and colonize other places. Carthage would be another 400 years later, but they were beginning to do those trade routes that went far and wide.
Right.
So this city is one of the many Phoenician city-states, and God does not send. He gives Joshua very specific instructions. He's not to send all 12 tribes. He's to gather up the men of half the tribe of Manasseh, and what are the other two that are in there?
The other two of the 12 tribes.
Yeah.
Who he sends?
Yes.
Is it at chapter 2 or in chapter 1?
No, that's the spies.
Correct. Is it before or after
chapter? He says it. I think it's probably in chapter 3. Yeah.
Okay. And removed and lodged and came past after 3 days. He's given them the specifications for the passage.
He also, when they make the passage, the priests, while you search for that, Joshua sends the priests in with the Ark of the Covenant, and he's told by God that when the priests go in, a man from each of the 12 tribes is to carry the Ark. And when they go in, the water, he will magnify Joshua in the eyes of the people the same way he did Moses. And what happens is they walk into the water, Joshua walks in, and the water is put aside. And they stand on dry land in the middle of the Jordan. So he's repurposing what he did for Moses to now do it for Joshua as well, and show the people that Joshua is their God-chosen leader. Did you find it?
I find the part where it says, "Take you one of each man. Now therefore take you 12 men out of the tribes of Israel, out of every tribe of man. It shall come to pass as soon as the soles of their feet bear the ark of the Lord," what you were talking about, the water shall be cut off.
Yep.
When the people, is it mentioning the sanctions of the tribes after that? Here, you just take.
Do you want to explain the 12 tribes concept to everybody?
Yeah, so the original 12 tribes.
Sorry, okay.
No, I don't even want to talk about it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, it was just so fast. It was kind of funny.
Smart.
It's the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh.
Okay.
Yeah, but okay, right. 12 tribes.
No,
I'm kidding. Tell the people.
So the 12 tribes originate from the 12 families right after during the Exodus, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so during the Exodus, there were these 12 men who had their houses, so to speak, camping in different parts of the larger group of Israel whenever they traveled out. And once they were out there...
I think it's the descendants of Jacob's grandchildren.
Yes.
But they resplit back into those
correct.
tribes.
They're each, the 12 families are named after the 12 children of Jacob. So you have the tribe of Reuben, you have the tribe of Gad, you have
Levi,
Levi, Judah. The one that's mentioned a lot, especially in like Exodus, is the Levites.
Yes.
Because they were, I don't know if they were the most righteous or they were just chosen. I'd have to see how the story progresses for that to happen. But the Levites carry out most of the ritualistic or sacred actions. Like,
if I remember correctly, Levi was one of the eldest sons too.
Yes, yeah. So the Levites are all of the like the priest class, so to speak. They deal with building and taking care of the temple whenever it's in the move. Next to Aaron, they're like the religious leaders, essentially the Levites. And then you have Reuben, who is a lot of the soldiers, if I remember correctly.
There's Cohen, right?
There's Cohen. There's 12 of them.
Yeah.
So,
I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. The point is,
and what's interesting with them is as this story progresses, as the story of Israel progresses, you see these 12 tribes go from like families and different classes to like entirely different subsections. Especially whenever Israel becomes a kingdom, they'll talk about some being at war with each other, some allying with the enemies of others.
Yeah, you get clans.
It's
clans.
essentially clans, these 12 clans that rise up in Israel. And it's interesting to track where they all go and how throughout all of it, the Levites continue to be a holy, like, surveyor, essentially. So much so that in a story I did with my Sunday school class around Elisha, it was during the time of Elisha, which is way, way later on than this. There is a man who tries to start his own religion in his house, which is a story we need to cover on here someday. Yeah. A man tries to start his own religion in his house, so he gets gold from his neighbors and builds a statue. And he's like, this is a religion now. And then he's like, wait, we're not a legitimate religion unless we have a Levite. So there was a random, just homeless man walking through the city one day, and he asked to stay at this guy's house who's starting a religion. And he's like, are you a Levite? And the guy's like, yeah, my parents were from the tribe of the Levites. And keep in mind, they're both Israeli. They're both in Israel, but it's a different tribe. And he's trying to get a Levite. He's like, oh, you're a Levite? Are you one of the priest class? And the guy's like, no, I'm just from the Levites. And he goes, close enough. And he makes that guy the high priest of his house. It's a very funny story. It ends with everyone dying. It's perfect. I don't know why we haven't covered that yet. We'll do that later.
To it.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I was looking it up to make sure I had my figures right for who was part of the tribe of Levi, but some of the most important ones are Moses, Aaron, Samuel, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Ezra, and Malachi.
Yes.
Christ is Judah.
Christ is of the tribe of Judah.
Yes.
And one of the so that's the reason the name that he's given by David, the Lion of Judah, is so significant. To us, that doesn't mean a ton. It's like, okay, Judah, that's a region in Israel. Who cares? But it was part of the prophecy that Christ would not only be Jewish, but that he would descend from the tribe of Judah in the direct lineage of David.
Yes.
And David said that my ancestor, that's not opposite of ancestor, descendant, my descendant that's to come that will take away the sins of the world will be the Lion of Judah. So he's of the tribe of Judah, and he's the lion, the forefront of it, essentially, which is why that name of Christ has a lot of like poetic meaning to it.
Yeah, and both the first king of Israel and the last king of Israel, the first true king of Israel, Saul not included, but
yes,
both of them are.
Yes, that's another way to look at it. Yeah, they were both of the tribe of Judah. They were both like lions in their own right. And David was said to be a man after God's own heart. So that also fits in. Yeah. We'll get to David eventually. David's arguably my favorite character in the entire Bible.
Not perfect. Not a perfect guy.
Not perfect at all, but definitely one of the most interesting. Please do not cry for
Did you see what's in it?
The gourd. The gourd. The gourd. Someone made a YouTube account. The gourd itself. That's incredible.
As demanded, we do not pity it. Weep not for me, my children. I am the gourd.
The gourd. Incredible. Someone did that. Someone took the time to do that.
I love it.
Amazing.
I love it so much.
Did they say anything up here? No.
Nope.
They entered with that.
Yep. The gourd. They entered as a gourd.
Yeah, they were talking about the Levites tribes. And, yeah. Wow. Incredible. Well, that was excellent. Thank you for that.
All right.
So anyway, that's where like the 12 tribes come. You'll hear, especially if we cover this part, you'll hear a lot of mention of them. There's like, the sons of Reuben went over here, and this happened to the Levites, and that happened to the Gads and whatnot. Which one of them went missing? There's one who disappears from the historical record.
There is one who disappears.
Is it the Gads?
I can't recall who it is.
One of them goes missing, and it's a whole root for conspiracy theory, like what happened to them? Did they become part of this? Did they get wiped out? But the big ones are like the Levites, Judah, Reuben. They're like the three most prominent hills, and the Benjamites. Benjamites come up a lot. A lot of the prophets were Benjamites.
I mean, there's 10 of them do eventually get got.
Well, yeah, they get got, but to my understanding, one of them just falls out of like the biblical record.
Yeah,
They just go.
I'm trying to figure out who it was.
Just all
Because I know which one you're talking about, but I'm like, I can't remember who it was.
I hate how people like don't consider the Bible interesting, and there's literally like the legacy of the 12 tribes and their story throughout Israel. It's some of the coolest stuff ever. One day I'm gonna have to make a video about all of it.
Yeah,
It'll take 87 hours.
All 12 are still there in 930 after David and Solomon.
Okay. We don't have to do this.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to look into it now because it's driving me insane. The Black Hebrew Israelites suggest that they're the lost tribe.
I know that. Yes, I have heard that. I've also heard which I like. I actually do like the Ethiopian church because I think they're cool.
They're pretty cool.
They're very cool. But I've also heard them say that they're the lost tribe.
Yeah, which is not cool.
Which is not. Which well, hold on. Not all of them. Just I've heard proponents say that maybe they are. The Ethiopian church is so cool because you can see where it starts. So to give it's
one of the oldest ones.
This is totally off what the concept is, but I have to mention it. So in the New Testament, right after Christ dies, like days after Christ dies, the disciples are walking around Jerusalem and they're just like witnessing to people. And this is one of my favorite stories of missions ever. So they're just walking around the city, and I think it's not Peter. I think it's one of the
Would it be Peter or Paul?
No,
They were the other direction.
it's before Paul.
Yeah.
I think
It's not Stephen.
no, it's
James?
It might be James actually.
I feel like James went south.
One of them, anyway, whoever it is, one of the disciples is just walking around the city, and they're like, God's dead now. Oh no, what do we do? Like, everyone was freaking out. And while he was walking around, this is also one of my favorite messages in the whole Bible, how it was delivered. There was an Ethiopian eunuch. Now, to describe what that is, in Ethiopia, which is in Africa, the higher ranked men would be made into eunuchs. And they were essentially, you could think of like, this guy was like a judge, sort of.
Yeah.
He traveled with the king and the high-ranking government class. Someone said it's Thomas. That sounds right, actually.
That sounds right.
Thomas.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Someone did that. Wow, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Rodriguez Jr. I appreciate that. Yeah, Thomas. So anyway, Thomas was walking around, and he sees an Ethiopian eunuch sitting in a chariot from Ethiopia. So these guys from Ethiopia were in Jerusalem on business. And one of the essentially like judges,
businessmen doing business.
They're businessmen doing business. One of the judges is sitting up in his chariot, just reading. It said he was reading the book of Isaiah.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there and he looks confused. So Thomas is like, I'm probably supposed to do something about that.
Yeah.
So he walks over to him, and Thomas is explaining himself.
It's Philip.
Someone also said, Philip or okay. We're going back to one of the disciples. Now that they say Philip, I'm pretty sure it's Philip. But yeah, what Philip, sure. Yeah, stay with me, kids. I'm losing you. Philip goes up to this eunuch, and the eunuch's like, I don't understand what the book is saying. And Philip says, well, what are you having trouble with? And the verse he's reading is, as a lamb before the slaughter is done, so did the Son of Man enter his slaughter in peace. Or the verse that's equating Christ going to the cross
As a lamb going to
the lamb going to the slaughter, quiet, just letting it happen. And the eunuch says, how could the king of the world go dumb before his tormentors? And Philip gets to be like, I was there. he gets to say, like, I witnessed this. And he says, I watched the Son of Man go to crucifixion in peace, because that's the God I serve, which is an amazing, message in itself. But Philip gets to lead the Ethiopian eunuch to Christ. And then the eunuch's like, I want to join the church. So he's like, well, let's go get baptized. So he takes him to get baptized. And it says he dips him below the water. And whenever the eunuch rises up, Philip disappears. he's gone. And it says that the eunuch goes, this was the work of an angel. So the eunuch, it says that he travels back to Ethiopia and tells everyone he knows of God. Okay, right. So
Philip changed servers.
that.
That's a good one. Okay, it was funny.
Leaving the plot. I'm kidding. That was pretty funny. Anyway, so after that said, yes, okay, it's Philip. Got it. Thank you. After that, we never hear about the eunuch in the Bible again. You've got to understand the way missions work. There was a lot of like, they told this person from this region, this one from this region, and we never see it again. So we have no idea in the biblical context what happens after that. In the 1500s, whenever Christian missionaries from England went to Ethiopia and they started to make their way south into like the thick of it, they got down there and they're like, we're here to tell you the good news of Jesus Christ. And they're like, okay, why don't you tell us? And they're like, well, you know, he died on the cross, and the Ethiopians were like, oh,
yeah, we know that guy.
we already do that. They're like, what? And they're like, yeah, here's our records. And aside from a few of the names being different, they had the Bible.
Yeah, like the entire Bible.
They had like the entire Bible. This group of people who, and it's interesting because for like 1,500 years, people like us who studied the Bible, they would read about the Ethiopian eunuch and be like, I wonder what happened to that guy. I hope he did okay.
It's like he went and apparently spread Christianity to the
went and
entirety of
spread it
Ethiopia.
pretty big. Yeah, like the Ethiopian church is so cool because it's one of the ones that exists outside of like the standard history of the church.
The Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
The Ethiopian Orthodox Church. But we get there and they're like, oh yeah, Jesus, that's our guy. Like, which is really cool. I love that story so much.
And it's very interesting from a historical standpoint as well, because that entire area, Christianity was like for a very long time the dominant religion across North Africa.
Yeah.
Until the Muslims came in.
Right.
Yeah. And then the Muslims just annihilated it.
Yeah,
for
whole lot of war, murder,
it like
stuff happening
from Jerusalem southwest across to the middle of Spain. They got rid of all of it.
Yeah,
and they just missed Ethiopia entirely.
Yeah, yeah. Ethiopia's like, no, we know.
They're like, I don't know. There's a lot of desert there. It probably doesn't lead anywhere. And then went west instead.
I'm sure there's no one over there. But yeah, so like the Ethiopian is one of the most true or direct routes of Christianity in the world.
Yep.
And it's off of that one account.
Yep.
Which is really cool.
And yes, chat, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is pretty much the only reason we have the Book of Enoch today. Like,
yes,
they're the only... We don't have any versions of it from anywhere else. We just have the Ethiopic text.
Yeah.
So without them, we would not have Enoch.
Yeah, correct.
Which is fascinating.
They also claim to have the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes, they do.
I don't know about that, but
they have a church with one guy whose job is to walk around in a circle over a specific pit. And they say it's down there, but they won't let anyone check.
You know what? I respect it.
Like,
if it's down there, you go, guys. You've kept it secret for this long.
You're doing a good job.
Look, it's not a needed thing. It's just a cool thing. So if you guys got it, send me a pic sometime. I'd appreciate it. But no, they're very cool. Yeah. I love that story so much. Anyway, we've talked this long and have not talked about Jericho once.
We needed to set the scene.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half long podcast, too.
That's fair. Okay.
The Jericho thing's over in 2 minutes.
That's fair. All right. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and get into it. So as he was talking about earlier, this is in the time right after Moses is dead. And Joshua is now leading the group for the first time across the Jordan. This part I'm about to read shortly before they cross the Jordan, but it's right around the same time. So it says, "And Joshua the son of Nun sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, 'Go view the land, even Jericho.' And they went and came into a harlot's house named Rahab and lodged there." So to give you some context, according to I like to study Bible a lot. It has a lot of like little place and location stuff. And so according to it says that Jericho was about 5 miles on the other side of the Jordan. So the children of Israel are crossing the Jordan, and then 5 miles away is the city of Jericho, which by all accounts is massive.
Yeah.
Jericho is not only a walled city, it is a city of walls.
Yeah.
Rahab, who it's talking about here, lives on top of the wall in a house. The place is so big that, but this is straight up like,
walls have houses in them.
yeah, this is like Megalovania style. The walls of the city have houses inside them. Massive fortress. Now, again, the people of Jericho, very wicked. They're part of the Canaanites. We're all about some child murder and some pillaging and whatnot.
By the way, that is not like Jewish propaganda from the early like First Temple period. That's corroborated by the Romans and the Greeks, and a lot of people went, that's just Roman and Greek propaganda, ignoring the fact that the Jews also said it was real. And then eventually, very recently, archaeologists came across Phoenician temples and burial chambers with vases that had the mutilated bodies of infants. They did commit child sacrifice in terrible, terrible ways.
It is funny to me, a lot of that, because that's not the only time I've heard that.
You're like, dead babies.
No. I didn't mean. Someone's gonna clip that. They found all these dead babies. That's funny to me. That's my sense of humor. I hate it here. What was I? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Jericho, city of walls.
What constantly happens, and the part that's funny to me, is that a lot of the time there will be people who do that. They're like, oh, well, these enemies of the Bible, that was, like you said, Jewish propaganda or Roman propaganda or whatever. And then they find these ritual sites and they're like, oh, yeah.
Dang Jews, right again.
They're like, yeah, it's almost like the Bible knew what it was talking about. But, so anyway, these people of Jericho, pretty wicked, pretty awful. And they are a hugely formidable force. Yeah. It's again, a wall that you live inside of.
Gotta remember, the Jews are walking around the desert living in tents.
Yeah.
And there's 40,000 men that they can muster to fight.
Yes, yeah.
Jericho is an entire city. Like, they do not have the manpower to fight Jericho.
Pretty not good. So they're just like, walking through the desert. Now, of course, the things that the children of Israel have that Jericho does not is God, and we're going to see that play out. And what's really interesting is their conversation with Rahab. So Rahab lives on top of the city wall. So again, Jericho's a big city. There's visitors occasionally. So these two spies from Israel, they walk into the city and they make their way into Rahab's house. And it says, and it was told the king of Jericho, saying, behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country. So the king of Jericho, again, these walls are so big they have a king. The king hears that 2 men of Israel have come in, and says, and the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all the country. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, there came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were. So these 2 spies come into Rahab's house, and then whenever the police essentially come looking for them, she hides them, as you mentioned, up in the roof. And whenever they ask, where did these 2 strangers go? She says she has no idea what they're talking about. That they came from, but I know not whence they were. They went that way, which is very uncharacteristic. What's also interesting, again, in the study Bible, is the mention that in the Code of Hammurabi, it's specifically mentioned that there is a particular kind of punishment for harlots who commit acts of treason or deception against the king. So
interesting. I didn't know that.
I imagine the punishment's death, but the fact that was something that was specifically, thought out or a thing. So she knew the consequences of what she was doing, in other words, but she's still deciding to side with these 2 strangers. And the reason for it, it says, and it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, or dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I won't not pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in under the roof, which is what you talked about. She put them up in the roof. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan under the fords. And as soon as they which pursued after were gone out, they shut the gate. So they spent all night looking for these guys, couldn't find them. And it says, and before they were laid down, she came up to them on the roof. And she said unto the men, and this is Rahab, I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you, when ye came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the two kings of the Amorites that were on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you, for the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and in earth beneath. Now therefore I pray you, swear unto me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you will also show kindness unto my father's house and give me a true token. Okay, so this verse is wild because it puts into context everything the children of Israel has been through.
Yep.
See, whenever you're reading this from the accounts of the children of Israel, it's pretty much just them, and God goes, hey, do this thing. And they're like, oh, I don't know about that. That's kind of freaky. And then God does the thing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, do this other thing. And they're like, oh no, I don't want to have to do that. So it's like they are falling backwards and stumbling their way into being the most fearsome warriors on the planet. And it's all because of God. It's because God promised Abraham and Moses, and now Joshua, if you do what's right by me, I will provide for you. I will fight your enemies for you. I will be your God. And it's so wild to think about every single time that something goes wrong, and the children of Israel are so scared and freaked out and continuing to doubt him. Think about it from the other guy's perspective. Think about like the first battle that Aaron and Hur did against I think it was the Moabites. Whenever they get into a valley and the enemy army, a country, is like, oh, there's a bunch of just random homeless people.
Yep.
Let's get them. And they get wiped out.
Yep.
They got eliminated. And then the two kings of the Ammonites are like, we got to kill them. And they get eviscerated. Like every single time they're losing. And it's so interesting to hear Rahab say, we've heard about you. You're the one who crossed the Red Sea. You're the ones who defeated the Ammonites. You're the ones who did dog. And you're a bunch of homeless people with tents.
Who now have weapons from all the times they beat other people.
Yeah, most of their arms are from the people who they've defeated in battle.
Their weapons and armor are basically just stolen off the battlefield.
Yes, yeah, effectively. So
it's impressive stuff.
It's to the degree that a woman who's living in, again, one of the most fortified cities in the country is willing to risk execution by that same country because two people from these dreaded Israelites are in her house. And she's like, no, I am not messing with these two. Because if these are the guys who walked across water twice now and have killed all these armies, I'm not touching them.
Yeah, it's also not the first time in the Bible that two Jewish dudes walk into a city and it doesn't go well for the city, but
you're honestly going to have to be more specific.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Jewish Jews, those were angels. But
oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were making a reference to Christ.
No. It's for those that don't know, in the story of Abraham and Lot, that Lot is like, don't destroy the city. We can find good people. And the two angels go in and doesn't go well.
Well, they did go to find, like, God didn't just wipe them out. God was like, okay,
if you can find a single righteous man.
If you can find 10, that was what he said. It was like, if you can find 10 people in the city of tens of thousands, sure. And then 8 of them were Lot and his family, and they couldn't find 2 more.
Yep.
And whenever the angels went in, well, we won't get into detail about that.
Yeah, the populace tried to do some bad stuff.
The populace tried to do some bad stuff.
The angels are like, Lot, let's get out of here. Don't turn around. You don't want to see what's about to happen.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. So, it's wild to think about all these people from other countries who are like, oh, we're not messing with the Israelites. They may be a bunch of homeless people in tents, but they've got something going for them. And that's what Rahab says. It is proven that your God is the true God. Like you were talking about, there's all these multiple gods. But after this, Rahab's like, you guys are the winners.
Yeah.
So anyway, she says, because I've hidden you, show my father's house mercy, and that ye will say alive. Oh, you're getting bots. I get those too.
Yeah,
Isn't that fun?
Get rid of the bots.
Woohoo! It says, now therefore I pray you, and that ye will save alive my father and my mother and my brethren and my sisters and all they have, and deliver our lives from death. And the men answered here answered her, Our life for yours, if ye utter not this our business, and it shall be when the Lord hath given us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with thee. Then she let down by a cord through the window, for her house was upon the town wall, and she dealt them upon the wall. So after making this deal, she's like, I've hidden you, let us live. The men say, we won't do wrong by you and your family, and whoever else comes into your house. Whoever's in your house, we won't fight. So she lets them down the wall, and it says, and she said unto them, Get you to the mountain, let the pursuers meet you, and hide yourselves there 3 days, essentially telling them how to get away. And the men said unto her, We will be blameless of thine oath, which thou hast made us swear, saying, Behold, when we come into the land, thou shalt bind this line of scarlet thread in the window which thou didst let us down by, and thou shalt bring thy father and thy mother and thy brethren and all thy father's household home unto thee. And it shall be that whosoever shall go out of the doors of the house into the street, his blood shall be upon his head, and we will be guiltless, and whosoever shall be with thee in the house, his blood shall be upon our head, if any hand be upon him. So they're like, you've saved us. What to do is this scarlet cord, this red rope that you let us down the city, hang it out your window whenever we return. And if anyone's out in the city, if anyone's mingling or trying to fight back, we're blameless to that, even if they are your friends or family. But if anyone's in your house, that blood's on our hands. So essentially, it's a way, an oath of saying if they're in your house, they'll be protected. And they continue, and it says, according to our word, so be it. And she sent them away, and they departed, and she bound the scarlet line in the window. Which it's also, there's a ton of stuff like this in the Old Testament that's not explicitly said, but I do think it's a beautiful picture. If you look back at the children of Israel in Egypt, the way they were saved was by painting the red blood over the doorway for the death angel to pass over. Now here with Rahab, we have a red scarlet line out the window as the symbol that death should pass over. And there's a ton of stuff like that. There's a story with David whenever he takes... he marks the temple whenever his son Absalom's having his whole hissy fit. And he marks it with lamb's blood. Again, another sign of like the blood covering up death, eventually leading to Jesus Christ and his blood being that red line for humanity. It's one of those beautiful pictures that, as you read through the Bible, kind of builds on itself until eventually, I think it's in the book of Hebrews, it describes Christ as the blood. Well, we hear the blood of the lamb all the time, but it specifically describes him as the blood of the death angel, which cements that idea that this concept of the red, the blood being our savior is. It's just a beautiful picture that's shown throughout the Bible.
And if I remember correctly, after the recircumcision of everybody, they have, I think it's the third or the fourth Passover that they've observed. Is observed before the siege of Jericho.
So that entire point happens. The two men return, and they go to Joshua and said, the first thing they say to Joshua is, and they said unto Joshua, Truly the Lord hath delivered into our hands all the land, for even all the inhabitants of the country do faint because of us. Like, they get back and they're like, guys, you're never going to believe this. They're afraid of us. because like the children of Israel have had no contact outside of a sword fight with any other, group of people. They've just kept trying to kill them. So Israel, every time that they're like, oh God, I don't know if we can fight this war. I don't know if we can go up against this army. Meanwhile, the army was like shaking, going to fight these homeless people in the middle of a desert.
I mean, and there's like, before this, in Deuteronomy, there's the entire episode where they go and they're, it's the Moab moment where they get to Moab and God's like, all right, you're going to win. Just fight the battle. And then the king of Moab is like, I'm going to sacrifice my son right in front of all of you. And he does it. And the Israelites are like, oh no, I'm scared. And they run away. Like they win every single battle they fight. And
I forgot about that one. So,
it does not click for them.
To get across to you guys how absurd the scene he just described is, the children of Israel are freaked out by everything. Every fight, they're like, here it goes. We're going to die. And they never do. But they're like, here it goes. And on the other side, the Moabites were so freaked out that whenever they come to war, the king of Moab's like, look, and he kills his son as like...
the crown prince, like the heir to the throne.
He kills the prince in front of the Israelites and is like, look, here, a sacrifice to you people. And the Israelites are like, this guy's crazy, and they run away. They're both, from the Israelites' point of view, they're like, oh, these guys are crazy. And then think about it from the Moabites' point of view. The king's like, look, as long as we don't have to fight you, I'll kill my child. And he kills his child, and the other side turns away. And then he's like, what are they planning? These people are monsters.
It's a wild scene, because what the Israelites see is they see the king of Moab sacrifice his own son to his god, Hamash.
Yes, yeah.
And they're like, oh my god, Hamash is going to kill us. And Yahweh's like, oh my god.
Yeah, meanwhile, God's like...
He's like, okay. Meanwhile, the king of Moab's like, it worked.
He's looking at that contract with Abraham. He's like, are you sure I can't pick anyone else?
It's like, there's gotta be a loophole. God's sitting here like, there's gotta be a loophole in here, and he's like, oh right, it's the Jews.
Either I have to please anyone else.
Poor God trying to get his own lawyer, and they're all on the other side.
Yeah. Anyway, so after that, what part were we at? You got me caught up when you were talking about like the execution.
Yeah, we were at just after they leave Rahab, and they're in this recircumcision, the Passover, and they're getting ready to go to war.
So it's like, hey, look, they're actually afraid of us. Whoa, that's crazy. And then if you want to explain the circumcision part.
Yeah, basically,
you're itching to talk about
God goes to
I'm also going to get a
Joshua.
drink. So
Yeah. So what happened here is that, like we said earlier in the episode, all of the men who came out of Egypt at this point are dead. All the men marching with Joshua, I'm okay. If you give me a glass of water, I'd love you though. All the men marching with Joshua were born after the Egyptian exodus. So we're looking at, some 30 to 40 years since the exodus here. Joshua is told to... Okay. Joshua is told that he needs to make some sharpened knives, gather them together, and then we're going to go and recircumcise the entire population. And I wonder how Joshua managed to pitch this to everybody, but he did. He managed to convince everybody to go along with this. All of these adult men on the eve of battle, just cutting off the foreskins.
Well, so I think context helps, because like right now we're like, that sounds horrible, the idea of doing that. But circumcision was actually a thing seen not only in Jewish culture.
It wasn't only Jews, yeah.
It was only Jews. Egyptians were very big about it for the same reason. It was seen as a sign of cleanliness, but above all else, it was like a physical devotion to God. Yeah. To the degree that not only like the Jewish people, but several other groups of people would see the uncircumcised as godless people not there. So essentially what's happened is, especially after the information that everyone else is afraid of us, Joshua was like, okay, we're going to do this thing right. We're not going to go in as a bunch of godless heathens who are just like fighting for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're going to do the circumcision. We're going to do the Passover. We're going to do the Ark of the Covenant. We're going to do all the stuff we're supposed to, because we are God's people. We are not going to act like a bunch of renegades. Yeah. Joshua's because they have a habit of doing that.
Joshua's a very good leader. He's a military.
Arguably, Joshua is the best leader Israel ever has in the Old Testament.
Early on, he's the assistant to Moses. He is the general of the Israelites. So when he gets appointed, he's like, there's a degree of respect and organization that follows him around.
Yeah.
And so when he tells everybody they need to do this, they do it and they trust in him. And they're like, all right, you got us this far. Where's the push?
It's got to be powerful, too, as the people of Israel, to be like, I did not deserve the credit for Thomas. I was keep up the Lord's work. Thank you very much, Rodriguez.
Thank you.
I thought it was too, but yeah, it's Philip. Now that I say it,
yeah, it was Philip.
Because whenever they got to the Orthodox Church, one of their like patron saints was Saint Philip, which is adorable.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So also thank you everyone for the super chats and stuff.
Yes,
I know we're talking. We'll read a bunch of stuff later.
We'll read them.
But I appreciate it. Even if we don't get to them right now, it means the world. So thank you guys. So it's got to mean a lot for the children of Israel to be afraid after the death of Moses. Like, man, this guy took us across the Red Sea. What's it mean now? And then to see Joshua take you across the Jordan, that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it's everything they needed to see to calm their hearts.
I think it's also beautiful because we see that God, I talked about this a little bit in the podcast we did a couple nights ago, but that God never interferes with humanity's free will when he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
It's like after Christ, it's all just spiritual guidance and connection. Whereas in the Old Testament, it needed to be much more physical at points. And I think it's interesting how God knew, or it's beautiful that God knew what Joshua needed was a little bit of favor in the eyes of the people. Because it says, God told Joshua, I will magnify you before them. And I think that's just it's a very beautiful picture that God's essentially saying, Joshua, you're cut out to be the leader. Yes. I've always known you would be. I'm just going to make sure they know that. It's very pretty.
It's a good message all around.
It is, yeah. But yeah, Joshua's a great leader. He's also the first judge. So Israel has their time of judges whenever they get to the promised land. And then after the people say, we don't want judges and prophets and all that, we want kings.
I was wondering why the viewership dropped by 200 people, and then I was like, oh, it's 8 o'clock. All the political coverage is about to start.
Interesting.
Well, watch this instead. It's better.
Correct. More important, unironically. So Joshua, he's the first judge over the people of Israel, and after the people say we don't want judges, we want kings, a lot of the roles of judges are moved to roles of prophets that we see after that, during the time of the kings of Israel and stuff like that. But anyway, so Joshua was the first judge. Very cool guy, very cool fellow. So at this time, he's like, all right, we have the information from the spies. We're going to keep Rahab safe. We're going to do everything correctly to be prepared for this thing against Jericho. We're going to do it by the book. And he, the next few chapters go into detail about that, about the speech Joshua gives them. I don't think this is where it says, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's around this time. I think it might be right after that. But yeah, Joshua gives them speeches as a great leader. In one, I don't think it's this one, but in another part, he says, choose you this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
Yes.
Which is a beautiful sentiment. He's got his foundation right in God. And anyway, I love Joshua. So he has got all of this figured out. He knows what they're going to do, and they're ready to do it until we get to the end of chapter 5 when it begins. Yeah. Was there anything you want to say before I get into Jericho?
Not before we get into the Jericho thing.
Okay. All right.
I'm ready to go.
So all this has happened. It says that the people did eat, and the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. So the people are eating. They're getting ready for. This is also a very symbolic victory because ever since over 40 years ago, when they left Egypt, they have been walking towards the promised land. And now that they have crossed the Jordan, they are here. And they've been fighting people who've been trying to kill them before. This is their first time fighting for the promise.
Yes.
So it's a big deal. So it's like the men are ready to fight. And it says at the end of chapter 5, and it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, art thou for us or for our adversaries? Because he's getting ready to survey the battlefield. And there's just a guy standing there with a sword. Just armed. And Joshua says, are you for us or them? And he said, nay, but as a captain of the host of the Lord, I am now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said unto him, what saith my Lord unto his servant? I love Joshua so much. Okay, so
it's a great statement on leadership too.
It is.
From biblical standpoint, what is being said here is what's being shown here is the man who's appointed to lead all of Israel by God himself. When confronted with somebody who brings their authority directly from God, he immediately is subservient. He's not vain. He's not prideful. He's not like, well, who are you to come here and tell me what to do?
Exactly.
It's thank you, Lord. I'm
yes. What does the Lord say to his servant? Yeah.
There's later on medieval period, you get the divine right of kings idea. Yeah. And this is almost the exact opposite.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. There's what you were saying. There's this idea that a lot of kings are they're a member of God's covenant, who's meant to lead man. But here, Joshua, the appointed leader, bows himself, which, for those that don't know, what he just met was an angel.
Yeah.
The person before him with the sword was an angel. And as soon as Joshua finds that out, he falls to his face and worships and says, what does the Lord want his servant to do? Which...
And given the context, it's probably Michael.
There's a good chance, the captain of the host of the Lord.
Yeah.
This could very well be the archangel, the one who will, at this current point, 2022, the one who will body Lucifer in the future.
It's probably the same guy Daniel's talking about when
Yeah.
the angel approaches him and is like, "I'm sorry it took me so long to get here. I was fighting with the Prince of Persia."
I was fine, which is we'll get there.
Yeah, and it's-
That's all
the chief prince came and helped.
Yes,
He's talking
yeah,
about Michael.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what's this is probably the same idea here.
Yes, yeah. So here we have Joshua approaching, and he says, I'm at the Lord's command. What does he want me to do? And it says, and the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy. Joshua did so. Okay, so the significance of this, for one, like we saw a lot of times earlier whenever Moses had these conversations with God. Sometimes he was pretty haughty. I say sometimes. A lot of the time he was pretty haughty. Most of Moses' fault came from his rage against God. There were times where he had, we talked about whenever he went to get the 10 Commandments, he talked to God for like days. And the whole time he's just like, God, I don't think you know what's going on down here. I think we should change this, blah, blah, blah. Versus Joshua, who immediately says, what does God want his servant to do? Which is why I do think Joshua...
He learned from Moses' mistakes.
He's learned from Moses' mistakes. But he never questioned or fought against Moses. He was always there by his side as a friend. And here he's just being better because of what he's experienced. I love Joshua a lot. Anyway, but the part about his foot from holy ground is whenever God first visited Moses, all the way back, way before he ever went to Egypt, he told Moses the first time they ever communicated to take off his shoes because he's standing on holy ground. And to see that here, that the first time as the leader of the children of Israel, that the angel says the same thing to Joshua that he did to Moses, that this is a sacred ground that you're being commemorated on. It's beautiful. I love stuff like that. So anyway, it says, we are now to chapter 6, which is the story of Jericho. Are they saying anything?
I timed this perfectly.
Oh, look at that. 805. Look at that. Whoa.
See?
That was impressive. All right. I doubted you. Only an hour intro for the story of Jericho. Perfect. Anyway, so in chapter 6, it says, now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. Think about that. Like this city, again, the walled city, this superpower effectively at the time, is not letting anyone come out or any of its people go out or any strangers come in because they are horrified because they saw 2 people from the children of Israel, which gives a testimony for how effective they are. I saw someone make the joke earlier. They were like, how accurate was the VeggieTales version? Which surprisingly, pretty accurate. But it's pretty accurate as far as the events go. But the difference was in the VeggieTales version, they're like mocking and yelling at him, which we'll see a bit later. But they were also terrified of them, especially considering what they do next. So anyway, it says, now Jericho was shut up. And it says, and the Lord said unto Joshua, see, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. He's like, Joshua, it's in the bag.
you got this.
And ye shall compass the city, and ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thou shalt do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram horns, and the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times. And the priest shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up every man straight before him. And Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said unto them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram horns before the ark of the Lord. And he said unto the people, pass on and compass the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of the Lord. And it came to pass when Joshua had spoken unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets and ram horns passed on before the Lord, and blew with the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. And the armed men went before the priests that blew with the trumpets, and the rearward came after the ark, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. So what's happening here is God went to them and said, all right, you're going to take the Ark of the Covenant, which has a lot of significance with the children of Israel up to this point. It contains stuff like manna from heaven, the 10 Commandments, Moses' staff,
Some sort of sonic super weapon, apparently.
apparently a nuke, according to ancient aliens. It's a very special box. And part of the rule was that the Ark of the Covenant's very sacred. You're never supposed to touch it. And the only people who are to touch it are the priests or the Levites, as we mentioned earlier. So he says, you're not going to go to Jericho with a bunch of weapons. You're not going to go ready to fight a war. The priests are going to carry the ark. And that's all you need. There's going to be men in front of the ark with swords to protect the ark, but you're not going there for a fight. You're going there with me. Because the symbolism of carrying the ark is that you're signifying God is with us.
You're carrying God with you.
You're carrying God with us. So you're going to carry this image of God around the city. For 7 days, you're going to do it. For 6 days, you're going to do it once. You're going to circle the city, go home, circle the city, go home. The 7th day, you're going to do it 7 times, and everyone is going to blow their trumpet. So it says Joshua does that. And then it says, and Joshua had commanded the people, saying, ye shall not shout nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I bid you shout, then ye shall shout. So they just, in silence, walked around the city. Could you imagine what the Jerichos were thinking during these 6 days?
Probably what?
These are the people who everyone's like, these guys literally walked across water. I am horrified of them. I do not want to deal with them. And then they show up, just a few of them, with a box. And they circle you and they go home.
Yep.
And then they circle you and they go home.
It's gotta have been like the most unsettling thing to see. Like, just because every day you're expecting that they're going to show up with the ladders and the ram and all that, and they just show up with a box.
They just walk
around.
There's nothing to see here. We're not bothering anyone. We just have a box.
Because you'd have to be so on edge at that point,
right?
Like wondering, what is this some sort of distraction from? Like, what are they doing that they're trying to make me not notice? And then at the end of the day, like, this is exactly what you were supposed to notice. This was the thing,
right? Yeah,
like,
this is it. So anyway, and yes, I see that the gourd said
the gourd is in the ark.
Gourd's in the ark. Sure. Anyway, so Jonah was well after this. By the way, it's just the gourd. You don't have slow mode on?
No,
you did this to yourself.
Yeah,
you've created this monster.
It's probably my
anyway.
fault.
It says so. So the ark, and I bid you, so the ark of the Lord compassed the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp and lodged in the camp. Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. And 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets and ram's horns before the ark of the Lord went out continually and blew the trumpets, and the armed men went before, and he's continuing to do all the stuff that God says. The 2nd day they do it again, so they did 6 days. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose up early about the dawning of the day, and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. So they did it once every day. On the 7th day they did it 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priest blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, shout, for the Lord hath given you the city. And the city shall be accursed, even it and all that are therein, to the Lord. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And ye in any wise keep yourselves from the accursed saying, lest ye make yourselves accursed, when ye take out the accursed saying, and make the camp of Israel accursed, and trouble it. But all the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord. Mm-hmm. So essentially what Joshua said here is, after they've done it 7 times, the men at the front who have been holding the trumpets in silence up until this point begin to blast them. And Joshua tells the people, the city is ours. We've done it. Whenever we walk the city, there's a giant wall behind him. He's like, whenever we walk through this destroyed wreckage that's about to be right here, he says, whenever we walk through it, don't take anything out of it. Everything that's in here is the accursed, as he said. Yep. And as you mentioned, group of baby murdering killers. Yeah, it's all accursed. None of it's to be yours.
It's evil.
He says, only the gold and the silver we take, and that is going to the Lord's treasury, or it's going to be consecrated in the temple, essentially. Like, what's of monetary value we're giving to God, do not touch anything else, and do not keep any of it for yourself, which we won't get to tonight, but that's exactly what they do.
Yeah, this is like kind of the way that the Israelites are told to do war in the Holy Land, is you are to eliminate everyone and take nothing.
Correct. Yeah. See, before there was a very much so like scavenger idea to it, like take what you can, we need to fight. But now they've made it. Now they're where they're supposed to be. So instead, their commandment is to you don't need more because God will provide for you. It's similar to the manna that they saw in the desert. God said, "Don't take more than what you need for the day because it will come tomorrow." But of course, people are still going to take more than what they need. So anyway, ignoring that part, it's still the happy, cool wall about to fall down part. And it says, so the people shouted when the priest blew with the trumpets, and it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man, woman, young and old, ox, sheep, ass, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said unto the 2 men that had spied out the country, Go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman and all that she hath, as ye swear unto her. And the young men that were spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brethren and all that she had. And they brought out all her kindred and left them without the camp of Israel. And they burnt the city with fire, and all that was therein, only the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and of iron, they put in the treasury of the house of the Lord. And Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, and her father's household, and all that she had, and she dwelleth in Israel even unto this day, because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Joshua adjured them at the time, saying, Cursed be to the man before the Lord that riseth up and buildeth this city Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his youngest son shall he set up the gates of it. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was noised throughout all the country. So the people yell, and it says the walls fell down flat, which if you're one of the people in Jericho, you've watched these people circle you 7 days straight, and then they yell, and these walls who have been there for who knows how long, just all at once.
No longer than 1,800 years, but yeah.
Yeah, just 1,800 years. Just walls that have been there that long, and they yell, and they all fall over. And so the people just destroyed everything, went through, took it, and all was destroyed except for Rahab and those who decided to trust her and be in her house, which is, again, another symbol of death being passed over because of the scarlet cord, so to speak. And we're going to leave it there because the next chapter immediately starts with, it turns out people stole money and gold for themselves. The people who just watched God, they screamed and God tore down a city, and they're like, I better get some gold. But so
there's always someone who's
going to be an idiot. But leaving it there to be nice. Yeah. It was Joshua's first time fighting, their first time fighting in Jericho, and as he did what God said, God destroyed the walls, and Rahab and her people were saved. Yep. And I think that's pretty neat. Without getting into the part where the people steal all of the money and try to make it a big problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of these stories from this point on do become God giving people reason to trust him, and people continuing to be people, displaying the many faults of man and all of that. And there's a reason that you get to a point where there's a prophecy about the guy who's going to come and put us into a state of grace.
Yes, yeah. But I like I said, I think one of the beauties of this is that idea that Rahab, and not just Rahab, but all those who trusted in the God of Israel, so to speak, all those who trusted in her, were able to endure. And it's again another testament of God's providing hand throughout. Not only his providing hand, but another picture of salvation before Christ ever came along. I think it's a beautiful thing.
I agree.
So yeah. We've covered it. We did. There we go. There's that. You got to hear about the spies, the circumcision, the Michael threatening part, and also the Church of Ethiopia. So I think we did
Good amount of
That
topics.
was a good amount of topics.
See, we say the fall of Jericho, and then we cover like
Right. Well, they should be used to that at this
a
point.
college course worth of material.
Yeah.
What that means, however, is that it is about 8:15, so I think we'll take 15, 20 minutes and answer super chats, answer
Super
questions.
chats, question time.
And then we have to film more things.
Then we have to film more things for a video that'll be up on my channel.
Yes.
Yes.
So let me pull up the super chats.
People are just spamming the gourd.
You know what? It's the gourd of the Lord.
The gourd of the faith in the gourd of the Lord.
Have faith in the gourd.
Oh, you can just pull up supers like this?
Yeah.
Whoa.
We started doing this after, because they just disappear after a while, so. All right, starting with Reynold Hughes here, said, I can't hang tonight, but I am here to show my support. New cameras for the Lore Lodge boys. We are working on new cameras. That is going to be a thing. Let's see. So thank you, Ray. Rock and Ruin said, from this day forward, I will refer to Irish Aiden. That's both of us, by the way, but I assume you mean Thornbury. We're both Irish. As Nigel Strawberry. Fair enough. I don't care. I may be 30, but I'm a rugrat at heart and refuse to grow up. Smashing. Jackman said, I got a Mason meeting tonight, so I can't stick around. Have fun, guys.
That's when I made the joke about.
Yeah, that's when you made the joke about the goat. You know, a little. We do our meetings on Wednesday. But Zach Millam said this podcast and the When Did Daddy's religious videos. Wow, that's
It's a mouthful.
a sentence. Have helped me convert back to the faith after years of agnosticism. The only question I have is, what tips do y'all have on deciding a denomination/church? Thanks and keep it up.
Oh, that means the
Thank you.
world.
That means
I'm
the
happy
world
to hear
to us,
that.
Yeah.
I would say the primary thing to look for with any church is, and I'm safe to argue this with people, what's inside of this book is the holy and perfect Word of God. And if anyone tries to alter or change it, that's not good.
Yeah.
So the closer they stick to this and not modern and there's some churches who will use this as a backbone to talk about modern opinions and ideas and whatever. The closer they are to the book, the closer they are to the faith. So I would say that denominations, all that there can be differentiation down to personal preference, whatever. Find something that sticks to the book.
So I'm a Methodist, and we stick to the book. But yes, what he said. But I mean, for me, that is my answer. I mean, that's how I ended up with Methodism. Is the Wesleyan method, which is what Methodism is predicated upon, is the idea that you study the book, and the book is the ultimate authority. That if tradition and dogma and doctrine contradicts the Bible, you take the Bible over the dogma in every single case, regardless of what the tradition says. There are people who disagree with that. I am one of those people who thinks that, you need to back up your dogma with scripture. And if you can't, then,
that's a problem.
Then that's a problem. That's not to say that Catholics and Orthodox, that's not Christianity. It is. All the other Protestant denominations are Christianity. I have no problem with that. It's just, for me personally, I prefer the Methodist way of looking at things.
Also, I have the regular chat pulled up on my phone if anyone has questions.
Cool.
So.
Okay, History Daddy for £2 said #Maiden Mattis and #WhenDaddy making NNN hard.
Just keep
Ryan, I'm gonna fly to England and hurt you.
Do not give him attention.
French Sauce said, I hope y'all are having a fine afternoon. My question is, what are y'all's opinion on the levels of consciousness? It's a very vague question.
They're pretty cool.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean. If you mean the idea that you can achieve different levels of consciousness, I think that I wouldn't necessarily perceive consciousness as tiered or leveled, but rather I think you can close yourself off to perceiving certain things. And that as you broaden your mind, you can perceive more and more of the world around you, and that narrow-mindedness is often a way to protect your psyche from things that you're not ready to understand or that trouble you, and that as you open yourself up to new information, new material, new understanding, that will make you a more conscious person, if that makes sense. That's my thoughts on it, I guess. I don't know if you have any.
Not particularly.
The other Korean, I didn't know there were only two. Said, you spoil us with these weird Bible podcasts. Thank you so much. As SoCal floods, I want to ask, who's the biggest Giga Chad in the Old Testament? I didn't know that SoCal was flooding.
Joshua's in the
running.
I would Elijah. I still have to say Elijah.
I would also put Daniel up there for the
Daniel's
moment where
up
he
there.
walks into the feast and is like,
You really like that?
yeah, and he's just like, you have been numbered, you have been perceived, and you have been found wanting. You're all going to die. And Belshazzar is like, you are a prince now. And he's like, okay.
Sure, the kingdom that's going to be here for
this is a
4
guy.
hours. Yeah.
They're like, we're gonna throw you into a pit with lions, and he's like, do it. See what happens. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, Daniel's pretty cool.
Yeah, Daniel's a cool one. I like him.
He also did a lot of the prophecy that leads to the existence of Revelation, which is pretty cool.
The Gourd said, please do not cry for me. Weep not for the Gourd. For those who weren't here last night, the Gourd things comes from Jonah 4:9. God, as Jonah is sitting there waiting for the city of Nineveh to be destroyed, because he thinks it's going to be destroyed, despite the fact that God sent him there to preach, and the king of Nineveh was like, you know what, you're right. And Jonah got exactly what he wanted. Jonah's just so, filled with rage. He sits there, and God gives him a gourd to keep him out of the sun. And Jonah just doesn't get the message, so God kills the gourd, and Jonah's like, my gourd.
Stop.
Kid Flash Clone said, watching from Duke Divinity School. I hope, thank you, and I hope that we did not contradict your professors. And if we did, that's kind of funny. RF907 said, watching while eating nachos and sipping Red Bull and vodka. That's, you know what? That is one way to do this. I appreciate that. It's a hell of an evening. Born Confused said, hello from Japan. I can't stay to watch the streams at work. I often miss them. I'll look for it to be uploaded. Thank you for what you do. Well, thank you for watching what we do. We appreciate it. Tony Vogel Squirrel Punk something says, they should have had Chris put up the walls. Then Israelites would have had to tap out. Chris? Do you know what that's referencing?
I have no idea.
I don't. Billy Bob Jr. says, love what you guys do. Really helped me explore my faith. And he also said, what do you think of the books of Judas and Enoch? Judas, as far as I'm aware, is definitely much later and fraudulent. Right?
The book of Judas, to my understanding, is... I haven't read it. From my understanding, it is a account that was written by an early Catholic bishop.
Yeah. It's not first century like the rest of the Gospels.
It was written post,
Yeah.
which is the reason it's not really... Like, someone just wrote it later. It wasn't divinely inspired, I don't believe.
The entirety of the New Testament of the Bible, the canon New Testament of the Bible, was written in the first century AD.
Oh, people are informing me that Chris Jericho's a wrestler.
Oh,
I
okay,
don't
now
watch
makes
wrestling.
sense. Me neither.
Continue.
But I get the joke now. It is a good joke if you know the
joke,
context. But yeah. Enoch, on the other hand, my opinion of Enoch is that the version we have is a highly exaggerated version of the original, because the version we have is a translation of the Ethiopic version, which is a translation of the Greek version, which is a translation of the original Hebrew. So some things get lost and modified in translation, is my opinion on it. But I do think that it originated as probably oral tradition passed down from the time of Enoch. PJ Tab said, you guys are spectacular. Keep up the great work. I'm grateful for your teachings. You brought me close to my own faith. And with that, I am grateful. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's what we do this for.
Thank you.
The guy.
The guy.
Yeah, is that from Spy Kids 3? That the guy. Off topic, Wendigoon and I both fear the ocean. And thanks to the Lore Lodge, the fear of caves and forests is slowly growing within me. Love the channel, though.
I appreciate that, and it gets worse. The more you learn, it just gets worse. So.
You still got the Great Plains.
Yeah, but that's just like that's spooky. If it doesn't have mountains, I don't want it.
And thank you for the donation. That means a lot. Dovin Doragon said, bruh, I'd be afraid too if I knew an army of homeless people kept beating the neighboring nation's armies and were in my backyard too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Be
definitely.
concerned.
I wasn't saying that to imply that. I'm sorry to get cough guard. One of my friends just says wife went into labor. So congrats.
Oh.
If he ever watches this, congratulations.
Congratulations,
Appreciate it. Yeah.
This happened during one of my Twitch streams with one of my
Really?
friends.
Did it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's sitting there on the mic and he's like, what? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Guys, I gotta go to the hospital. And we were like, all right, good luck.
Good luck. Do if I knew an army of homeless people. Yeah, so that took me out of it. I apologize.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, like I didn't say any of that to imply that like it would be dumb to be afraid. Like if there's a bunch of like people of no nation roaming the countryside, defeating every kingship that's been there for thousands of years.
Yep.
Horrifying.
It's a very
Absolutely,
scary
yeah.
prospect, you know?
Yeah.
Evan G or Norberto, I cannot speak tonight. Norberto Rodriguez Jr. said, I did not deserve the credit for Thomas. I was corrected. Also, keep up the Lord's work. It's okay. We all make mistakes.
All right.
I thought it was
I
James.
appreciate it. I went with it.
He went along with Thomas.
Yeah, I was like, sure, Thomas.
Somebody in the chat said it sounded like we didn't know what we were talking about, which hurt my feelings a little bit. But we all forget.
Well,
minor
I wasn't prepared, and I read
Yeah.
about every one of the disciples at least once a week for Sunday school
There's
or whatever.
there's 12 of them. You mix them
There's
up
12 of them.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's one of them.
Peter and Paul are really the only easy ones.
Yeah.
Let's see, Evan G said, "Screw politics. Jesus and giants are all I need."
It's the spirit.
Honestly, I wish more people thought that way.
Gord, I am in the ark. Incredible.
We need Wendigord fan art.
No, we don't. Keep going. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I think it would be funny. The Foxo Gaming said, if Joshua Graham was in the Bible, who would he be? Do you know who Joshua Graham is? Well, time to look up who Joshua Graham is. Not Josh Groban.
One day you're going to do this, and it's going to pull up, like, the Orange website. Oh, the dude from Fallout.
God,
New
he's a
Vegas.
Mormon missionary.
Yeah,
I've been baptized twice, once in water, once in flame. I will carry the fire of the Holy Spirit inside until I stand before my Lord for judgment.
he'd probably be, he's very based. He'd probably be like Gideon
Yeah,
or something. Yeah.
I agree with you. Let's go back to.
I think you just have to refresh it, right?
Sometimes, but this once we get to a certain point, this is
fine.
easy enough.
There we go.
There,
Okay,
here we go.
cool.
Burrito Cat 23 said, according to leaders, the Ark of the Covenant is in Aksum at the Church of St. Mary of Zion. That's Ethiopia. That Aksum is Ethiopia today. That's the ancient name for the kingdom. I don't think it is, but if it is, what would be the repercussions / what would it mean for society now? The
I wouldn't
Ark
touch it.
is lost after the fall of Jerusalem to Babylon in the 580s, if I remember correctly. It's in Daniel is when it gets lost. There are a number of suggestions for where it ended up. One is that the Babylonians took it with them to Babylon,
Right.
and that it was lost from there. One is that the Jews managed to escape with it and go southwest out of Babylonian territory.
They
That
got
would have
it
taken them
away.
directly into Egyptian territory.
Right.
Or they might have taken it into the sands of Arabia.
I mean, the kingdom fell apart. There's a long period after that where it's kind of like people are in the ruins of like Israel, so to speak. So
Is there anything in Revelation about the Ark reappearing?
not
think
to my
so.
not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It
anything
was
from
it
Revelation
was
about
a important factor whenever God and the Holy Spirit worked physically on earth. Now they work spiritually.
Yeah.
So I don't think, like, obviously it's incredible. It'd be one of the most amazing, arguably the most amazing historic find of all time if it was discovered. And I think it'd be fantastic. And, you know, as a Christian, of course, you know, redeeming and fulfilling a sea. But I don't think it holds the same power as the vessel of God, because we don't need that anymore. We're the vessel of God. That's the whole point of the Holy Spirit dwelling in us. He doesn't have to come down and sit on the mercy seat. We are the mercy seat. That being said, I think, to my understanding, which I would be wrong, if it was found, in the Old Testament, if you touched it, you died because you're like touching God directly. I don't think that would still happen because with the ripping of the temple, the Holy Spirit interacts spiritually with man rather than physically. So, yeah.
I think if you were to find it, it would be far more important on a global geopolitical level than anything else.
Probably.
It would be more important for the study of history. It would confirm a lot of stuff about the Old Testament, especially if the Ten Commandments are still in there.
I didn't even think about that.
Like if the tablets are still in there, that would be pretty huge.
Moses' staff still in there?
So if all that was in there, it would be pretty massive.
I 100% think there would be a lot of killing over it. I would probably kill over it.
The Christian and Islamic worlds would likely immediately go to war. It would not be pretty.
I'd be down to shoot someone over the Ten Commandments. Which I understand is hypocrisy because it says don't kill on it.
I think you'd probably end up in a situation where it would be I think if it were discovered, if an Islamic country didn't get to it first, because I don't think with the current way that Christianity is in the West, has very little institutional power. There's a lot of cultural power, but very little institutional power. There are a lot of Islamic countries, like theocracies.
Right.
I think it would probably, if it was discovered and it was confirmed to be the real thing, you would probably see it spirited away in the night by either a country like Saudi Arabia or Israel.
Or us, if we're fast enough.
You and me specifically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would charter a Black Ops flight.
Be over there.
Yeah.
All right. Plaz said Wendigoon/Mattis P.O. boxes got stuff for y'all. I don't know if you have one.
I do not have one.
I'm getting a new one soon because I moved. So I will have a new one soon. If you want to send anything to him, send it to me and I'll send it to him.
Yeah, that's
probably
a great
the best
idea
way
to say
do it.
on the internet. Tell people if they want to prank me that they have to prank you first.
Exactly.
Perfect. Yeah. Send it to this guy.
Whatever is visited upon you will be visited upon me first.
Actually, that's very based of you. Thank you. That's very kind.
I'm like your food taster.
I appreciate that.
Adjusted Brass says, "Hey guys, love what y'all do. Fantastic work. Could you guys shout out my girlfriend Casey? She's pretty great and loves your stuff. P.S. Wendigord merch when?"
Hi, Casey.
Hi, Casey.
I'm very glad that you like our stuff.
Yes.
It means the world. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching.
Congratulations on dating this fine man, Adjusted Brass. Assuming he's a man.
Yeah.
If not, then congratulations on dating this fine not man, Adjusted Brass.
Correct. The two genders, man, not man.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Technically not incorrect. Catherine Parnell says, do you plan on doing any Wendigoon merch anytime soon? I don't think you said probably not.
If I do a merch, it'll be a limited drop through a company that I have nothing to do with.
Like, God, I feel that.
Yeah.
If Isaiah opens a PO box, I will unironically make a Wendigord fan art and mail it to him.
That means the world man, I keep yawning. It's sneaky time.
Somebody could take one of your U2s and put a pumpkin on it.
That would be pretty funny.
Would be a Wendigord.
That would be a Wendigord. I'll say what he said. If I greatly appreciate that. If that is something you want to do, send it to this guy, and it'll find its way to me eventually.
Eventually. Sun Wukong said, "Thoughts on Hebrews 10:26. I know Catholics use this verse to justify the idea of penance, but in my Methodist church, I was always taught that as long as you accept Jesus and repent, your sin is forgiven." Let me look up.
No, I actually have that pulled up because I saw that earlier.
Oh, okay. You were just prepped.
Yeah, no, I just opened my Bible and it landed. No, I'm kidding. I was prepped. It says
Threw the Bible at the wall.
So Hebrews 10:26 says, "For if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins."
So if we sin willfully, there remains no more sacrifice for sins.
It's so.
I mean, I don't see how that would.
I don't see how it goes to penance.
Justify. Yeah, I don't see how that goes to
I don't
penance.
see how it goes to needing. So to me, it kind of confirms the opposite.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's pretty cut and dry that it's saying that if you sin, because there's this idea that a bunch of people in the early church have, like, okay, if I know sin's bad and I commit sin, do I not get into heaven?
Yeah.
Which is not what Christ said at all. what he's saying here is that if we sin willfully, there remaineth no more sacrifice.
There's no further sacrifice.
There's no further
that you
sacrifice.
need. Yeah.
It's not good. He continues to elaborate immediately after that. It says, "But a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation, which shall devour the adversaries. He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. Of how much sorer punishment suppose ye shall be thought worthy, who hath trodden under the foot of the Son of God and hath counted the blood." Hebrews is very poetic. The short version of what he's saying is like, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins. You don't have to sacrifice or do anything further. But sins often have bad consequences. And we saw that people who disobeyed Moses' law suffered the consequences, fiery indignation, as it says.
Yeah.
So you are subject to consequences if you commit sins. But as you said, there is no more
there's
sacrifice
no more,
needed for sins.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think your Methodist pastor is correct.
Yes.
Yeah, it's you should be cognizant of sin. You should avoid it. And if you do end up falling into it, then
repentance is good if you
repentance
want to
is
stay
good.
in the will of God and to receive his blessings. It doesn't mean you're going to hell if you do something wrong. If that was the case, then no one in the Bible would have ever gotten into heaven.
To give an example of another passage, if you deny me in front of your friends, and I will deny you before my Father.
Right.
That's not Christ saying you're not getting into heaven, you're being taken out of the book of life. It's basically saying we're no longer intervening on your behalf.
Yeah. So it talks about Christ makes intercession between God and man. It's like you can't, if you deny Christ and like stay away from him your whole life, don't be surprised whenever you don't get everything you want or the blessings God had intended for you as a Christian. It doesn't mean you lose your salvation. It just means that you are cutting off that intercession because you're not choosing to take part in Christ.
Exactly.
He's created the world and wants to give you blessings. Who are you to tell him that you're not interested?
Yeah.
You know?
Sorry, don't want it.
Yeah, it's the idea of like, you know, God wants to give you all this stuff. And you're like, but what if my friends think it's cringe? Like, okay. Have fun not getting those.
Yeah, exactly. Joshua Stevens said, what are your thoughts on...
Yes,
that was one of
okay, sorry. Apologies.
Josh Stevens said, what are your thoughts on reincarnation, the accounts of that girl with the memories? I don't remember her name. Does this fit biblically, or is it just not possible?
What?
Thoughts on that girl with the memories?
I'm assuming he's talking about someone who supposedly had memories. I've heard
past life.
People have memories of past life. And stuff.
I mean, personally, I've never once had a memory of a past life. I've had dreams of things that eventually happened.
Yeah, weird, like deja vu.
Yeah, like where I'm like, there was one when Aiden and I got here. I think I told you, like, I was like, hang on.
That's just because you dream of me a lot.
Yeah, you know how it is. But no, I would argue that reincarnation is pretty certainly unbiblical. It just doesn't fit.
No, I don't vibe with it.
It's pretty clear that when you die, you are reunited with God, or you are cast away from him.
I unironically, assuming people aren't lying, think it's, or misremembering or misstating, whatever, think it is more likely that there is some secret way that consciousness can be explored by other consciousnesses, and that time exists as a fourth dimension that we sometimes trip out of. Yeah. Before I believe in reincarnation.
Yeah, I'm much more likely to believe in dimensional slips than reincarnation. Let's see, Norberto Rodriguez Jr. says, who was the worst person or people in the Bible? I mean, Pharaoh was pretty bad. He's not great.
The worst?
Judas would be up there. I
mean, yeah, but Judas.
I actually don't. Kayla just said Pilate. I don't fault Pilate.
I mean, I fault him.
As a Christian, I do, but like as a historian, he kind of did what.
Yeah, he did what was his job, but the Bible later faults him correctly. It says Pilate, the blood. It says the washing did not remove the blood from his hands. But like he was still faulted, but I don't know if I'd call him the most evil.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
When I think of Ahab, potentially King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, they're up there.
For what reason?
Beheading thousands of prophets.
Yeah, that fits.
Yeah.
I was just curious exactly where you're going with it.
Just... Delilah was just some tramp who was trying to kill the guy who kept ripping people in half.
Yeah.
Samson was a menace. He was going through to them, like, you know, the what were they?
Philistines?
Philistines.
Yeah.
Like he was just going through the Philistines, killing thousands of them at a time. And she was just seduced him and he fell for it. She's conniving, but I wouldn't call her the most evil. I think King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, they killed thousands and thousands and would spill their blood over their families' houses and stuff. Jezebel was eventually eaten by dogs.
Yeah, Jezebel's
and
rough.
the prophet who was there and killed her said this is too good for her, being eaten alive by dogs. Yeah, probably those two.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm trying to think if there's any. I mean, other than like the devil, but that doesn't count. Yeah.
He's not a
Jezebel.
people. He's a...
Huh? Oh, that's a yeah. He was pretty wicked. He didn't kill that many, but he was pretty awful. The one who tried to kill Esther, Mordecai was tried to hang Haman. Haman, yeah, Haman was pretty bad. Yeah.
Everyone in Sodom and Gomorrah, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
Everyone but Lot. There's a lot of bad
I'm still
people.
sticking to Ahab. And
Yeah,
Jezebel.
that's fair.
Oh, Herod.
Oh, yeah.
Herod's
But he
pretty
didn't really
up
do anything different than Pharaoh.
there. What do you mean he did anything different than Pharaoh? What are you talking about?
He did the same thing.
Which Pharaoh are you? You're talking about the other Pharaoh.
Renepta, yeah.
You're talking about the one who had the children.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He
did that.
and Herod and
Okay,
Pharaoh were basically-
Herod also did that.
What?
But then Herod also went around executing prophets. And
Oh,
it was
okay, I see what
Herod's
you mean.
daughter who he was into. Because remember, it says his daughter danced in front of him and he
Mm-hmm.
liked her. And she was like, I want the head of John the Baptist. So he had John the Baptist executed.
Gotcha. I see your point.
And he had his head mounted on a silver platter, which is where the term comes from. Head on a silver platter.
I did not know that's where that
Where
came
it comes from because her daughter wanted his head mounted on that. So Herod's up there too. His entire
Herod's daughter would also be...
Herod's daughter's also up there, but she was as wicked as he is. Herod was so evil. You know how there's the covenant over any king of Israel that anyone who's a leader of Israel, they essentially get some leeway. God says he blesses leaders. That if a leader does something wrong, it doesn't mean immediately strike down, you lose your throne.
Yeah.
Saul's an example of that. He was the Lord's anointed, so he was given favor. Okay, Herod, I could be wrong. To my knowledge, well, Ahab, those two were the only ones who were so bad they lost their anointing by God. Because the way Herod died is he was having his people give a speech, or he was giving a speech in front of the people, and he stood up and said, I am now as great as God. I am your God, not the Lord Jehovah. And it says as soon as he said that, an angel came down and smote him with a sword. So that's pretty bad if you get the ire that bad.
John Lennon said something similar. How'd that go for him? He got shot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I don't like the Beatles.
Thank you for comparing King Herod to John Lennon.
I really don't like John Lennon.
Just keep going to the checks.
The Legend 27 said, Since you're both polite and rational people and talked about the Bible being the last word, I wanted to mention Jehovah's Witnesses. They get a bad rap, but also follow the Bible first. Thoughts? So the whole doctrine of the elect thing bugs me. I don't know why you would go around preaching the gospel to people only to tell them, oh, by the way, if you follow this, it doesn't really matter because God already picked 144,000 people to go to heaven, and you may or may not be one of them, and nothing you do can help. So I don't love that as a theological concept. I don't know. What about you?
Nothing particularly against them. It's just the same way I feel about any other doctrine, Christian or other. Well, I guess the only ones I could have the conversation with about it are Christian doctrines. Like any other belief system that professes Christ, if the Bible is the complete and perfect Word of God, why do you need more?
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about all of it.
It's similar to like Mormonism. It's not that I necessarily dislike that. I don't dislike.
Yeah,
them as
I don't
people.
have problems with them as people at all. Like as long as you believe in Christ crucified, we can get along.
Yeah,
that's all that matters. Christ, Son of God, crucified and resurrected. That's my barrier for entry. But like, if to someone who agrees on that with me, a brother in Christ, brother or sister in Christ, I would ask, okay, why was that not enough? Like why did someone come along later and that is equatable to it? You know, like sure, I'll listen to pastors and men of God who like give opinions or commentary. That's completely different. That doesn't mean I absorb their teachings into my belief system. You know, I think this was pretty definitive and did a good enough job. A perfect job. Sorry, I should have reworded that.
Just I've seen it a million times. Phaserblade has been asking if the global flood killed everything, how do we end up with regional species and humans on remote islands such as Sentinel Islands? Very difficult to answer that in enough time to make it just for the question and answer section. But in the episode we did on Genesis, if I remember correctly, I don't think we've done an entire episode on the flood, have we?
We did.
We didn't? Just on the flood?
I'm almost positive. We spent like an hour on the flood.
Yeah, we definitely...
Close enough.
If there's not a flood episode, then it's in the Genesis episode.
Yes.
So I would recommend you go watch that. That's just... It's going to be able to explain it a lot better than we can in a few minutes. Hades D. Ace said, hey, Wendigoon was watching the official podcast earlier and wanted to let you know that JoJo's has good Nazis and has parts of Jesus scattered around the USA. Also love your video on the Black Parade album, one of the best. Huh?
What a thing to just drop on a chat full of unsuspecting people. We were talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on the official podcast, and I was like, I've never seen the show, and they were trying to explain to me that there's like actual Third Reich Nazis in the show.
Okay.
But they're like, but then I think Charlie said like, but Jesus is in there too, and I was like, what are you talking about? So
he's certainly a bizarre adventure.
It is, and he's clarifying like, no, it's just parts of it. So okay, thank you.
Got it. It's just parts of Jesus.
I appreciate what a horrific sentence out of context.
But he did say he loves your Black Parade video.
Thank you. I'm very glad you like that video.
That is the first video of his that I ever watched.
Yeah.
So when people started tagging me in your videos and tagging you in mine, I was really confused.
I don't make Black Parade.
I was like, what's this have to do with the Black Parade? Like, and I was like, oh, he's doing other stuff now. Okay. Oh boy, I think I scrolled too far. I definitely scrolled too far. Okay. The Gord said, gotta do Gord work. Thank you. Enjoyed your stream. Apologies for the chaos. God will smite me later. He did smite the Gord.
He did smite the Gord, in fact.
Well, thank you. I hope you... I wish you the best in your Gordings on. The Joshua Stevens said the Ark was found from what I heard, but most people that tried to pull it out died of cardiac arrest. You made me look it up sometime. I will look that up. It does not sound familiar, but I will look into it.
In all of my paranoid research into the Ark of the Covenant, I haven't seen that. Unless it's new, which it might be. It might just be information I haven't come across, but I'd be interested in that.
Yeah. The One Templar said, I'm going to get married next year. I hope my first child is a girl so I can name her Wendy after you, Wendigoon. Aww.
That means a lot, and I appreciate the sentiment. Please do not name a child after me. I am a small man and do not need that kind of...
He's not a small man. He's 6'1".
Stop it. I'm glad you appreciate the
But her middle name has to be Goon.
If I was a girl and my parents named me Wendy Goon, I would change my last name.
Let's see. Sun Wukong said, how come God sent Jonah to Nineveh to save them when they sacrificed children, from what I remember, but he just kind of nuked Sodom and Gomorrah? In the case of Sodom and Gomorrah, God was well certain that Sodom and Gomorrah were irredeemable.
So the fact of the matter is, he did send someone to save Sodom and Gomorrah. He sent Lot, and then he also sent Abraham. He sent the two guys to the city to evangelize it, and both times it went horribly. It corrupted Lot to the same level of depravity they were at, and Abraham could not find a single person in the city who was righteous or willing to hear anything out. And whenever the angels showed up, they tried to force themselves onto the angels. So that's the kind of people we're dealing about. Again, Nineveh was also evil, but
redeemable.
They were willing to listen. That's why God said they do not know their right from their left. They're not inherently awful people. They were untaught.
Yeah,
whereas Sodom and Gomorrah was inherently awful people.
It's the difference between ignorance and wrongdoing.
Ignorance and evil. Yeah, is the difference. And he did make the case for them twice, and they rejected it both times.
Let's see. Werewolf Hours just gave us $2. Thank you.
Thank you, Werewolf Hours.
I appreciate you. Real Werewolf Hours. Meow Meow said Muppet Flail of Joy. Muppet Flail of Joy?
That's the Kermit gif.
Oh, okay. Hey guys, so stoked to catch this. I have to ask, VBS, Vacation Bible School, I assume. Did either of you grow up with that delightful summertime event? And also, what are your thoughts on Awanas? Much
Awanas.
love. For VBS, yes, I did do that. Did you?
I did VBS and Awanas.
I enjoyed VBS. I had a good time. I fondly remember the pizza bagels.
Yes, the pizza bagels were good. Did you drink the bug juice stuff?
We did not have bug juice.
There's bug juice, and then there was the they look like barrels.
We had those. We had the barrels.
So you poke the hole in the top and you drink the barrel.
Yeah, the weird colored drink.
Yeah, and there was, I have no idea what that stuff was. And then
It
there's
was like Kool-Aid-ish.
yeah, then there's like the giant Cheeto puffs.
Yeah.
Good memories.
I had good memories. I mean, you hung out with other neighborhood kids, you did arts and crafts, you sang some songs.
Yeah,
you ate some
it
food.
was a lot of fun. And Awanas was good too. Awanas was like a Wednesday night program we did at church.
Okay, we didn't have that.
And it was a cool system because what they did is you got a little red vest and you had these little booklets that were Bible verse memorization. If you could go up to one of the Awana leaders and like show them the verse and you were able to repeat it back, you got these little badges. And like you wore crowns, the badges looked like crowns, and every time you got it right, you could put a little jewel in the crown.
Ooh.
So you could immediately tell how studied a kid was, or studied how many verses he could recite by how crowned his jewels were and stuff. So it immediately became a competition, like I have to be better than you. So in that competition, I had learned and to this day retained more biblical verses
from that
than anything else.
So funny.
Like when I was 8 years old, I was like, I have to have more crowns than you. Now I can still recite a ton of like Christ teachings and stuff. It worked. It was a fantastic program. I support it. Yeah.
Disbanded Courier Games says, what is your opinions on the realm Samuel is in 1 Samuel 28? Is it heaven, hell, something else? He warns Saul that he will join him when he dies. I'm gonna have to look at it and listen.
That's when you know this verse.
I might not.
Whenever Saul goes to the witch of Endor and tries to get her to summon the soul of Samuel. And anyway, so what happens is he goes to the witch of Endor at night. Saul has her summon the spirit of Samuel. Samuel appears and says, "Why hast thou disturbed me?" And then says that Saul's gone too far, he's going to die, and that he'll join him. So I think it's pretty clear that, again, we talked about this previously, demons and demonic entities have no power outside of God. He is the creator. They can just manipulate what God's already created. So there, God was allowing Samuel, or allowing the spirit to connect through so that Saul could get his just deserved, so that he could get what he deserved in speaking in this manner. So whenever Samuel appears, it's not Samuel coming from some weird limbo universe, whatever. It's just the spirit of Samuel warning Saul, which is something that happens a lot in the Bible. The spirits of the dead come back to talk to the living. He's coming back to tell Saul that he's in trouble, and that when he meant, "You will join me tomorrow," he meant you'll be dead. Yeah. So
I agree.
I don't think he meant you'll join me in this. Again. Yeah, I don't think he meant you'll join me in this limbo stage. I think he just meant you will join me in death.
The Jewish delineation between heaven and, as they call it, Sheol, is not quite as concrete as the Christian version of things. A lot of our perception of heaven and hell comes from Dante and Paradise Lost. The Bible itself is a lot less descriptive. You get a lot of simile, a lot of allegory, a lot of allusion. You don't get a ton of like concrete, this is what it is. Christ never describes hell in any specific terms. It's just separation from God is what you get. And then you get that it's as fire, like it's as painful as that to be separate from God. So I would argue Samuel's probably in heaven, but yeah, I agree with you that what he's saying is you're gonna die.
Join me in death.
Yeah. Let's see. Werewolf Hour says, "I know you love the gourd, but any other favorite quotes?" I mean, Philippians 4:13 obviously is one of the go-tos.
I can do all things through Christ.
Yeah. Thessalonians 4, I think it's 4:12. Do not despise the coming of small things. Basically, what? It's the way I know that it has a broader context, but I like just the line on its own in the sense that it means it's saying do not what?
I thought you were making a joke.
No, I wasn't making a joke. I'm serious.
Okay.
This is in my Instagram bio. It has been for years.
I'm sorry.
The way I'm reading it is, don't be upset about something just because it's small. Take your victories as they come, even if they're small victories, even if it's a little goal that you've fulfilled. Take that and be happy of it. Do not be upset because it wasn't as big as it could be. I just like that line, the message that it sends out of context, as well as the message it sends in context. What about you?
I'm so sorry for that, by the way. I thought you were setting me up.
No, I was not.
I apologize. That's a good verse. I like it. My favorite is, one of them, as we talked about before, I fought the good fight.
Yeah.
I finished the course. I kept the faith. Therefore, laid up for me as a crown of righteousness and treasure. Yeah, that's from Ephesians 4:6, I believe.
Oh, and what Stephen says as he's being killed is also up there with.
Yeah, Stephen's also definitely one of those.
Yeah.
Do not lay this on their account.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. But my favorite verse in the Bible has got to be Matthew 25:40. So this is during one of Christ's messages, whenever he was talking to the men and he was trying to tell them the importance of what the work is. And he says, then shall the righteous... let's start. He says, then shall the righteous answer him, talking about on the day of judgment, whenever they're talking to God. Mm-hmm. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we... Sorry, I'm getting a little too ahead of myself. Christ says to them, then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Mm-hmm. Talking about in the end times, whenever Christ brings all of the Christians and the righteous together and says, here you are now given authority over what was meant for you from the foundation of the world. Mm-hmm. It says, when I was hungered, ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. So, it continues, it says, then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when we saw thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? So Christ is saying here, you can have the kingdom. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was in prison, you came to me. When I was thirsty, mm-hmm. all these different messages. And the righteous, it says, they'll ask and say, we never saw you, Christ, naked or hungry, clothed, in prison, whatever. Like, what are you talking about? And my favorite verse in the Bible is verse 40, where it says, and the king shall answer and say unto them, verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Mm-hmm. Which I think is not only the perfect call as a Christian, but the perfect call to live by. Yeah. Because Christ didn't say that you went to people and you made sure that they believed everything the correct way. You didn't go to people and made sure, okay, well, if they feel this way about this, and if they're nice people, you did. He's talking about naked, hungry prisoners, mm-hmm. like the society's outcast, right? Yep. Who everyone else will look on. And he said, whenever you do something for them, you're not doing it for me, you're doing it to me. Right. Which is, I think, one of the most incredible calls of the Christian faith. Feeling that. So, yeah. Matthew 25:40 is pretty powerful.
That's a good one. And it's a really easy one to live by, too.
Yeah.
As simple as you pass a homeless person on the street, you buy him a sandwich.
Yeah. Like, you have done it unto me.
Those are the works that they're talking about. It's not, you don't have to be going above and beyond. It's the little.
Yeah. People get so caught up on like the definition of works and stuff. It's really not.
It's
really not that difficult.
Good.
I was about burping. I caught it.
Domi Potato said, thanks for doing this. You guys got me so much more interested in the Bible than I've ever been. I was in Christian school for 9 years. The Holy Spirit works through men such as you. Thanks. Thank you. That means a lot. That's
incredibly sweet.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Let's see. Short Mason meeting. We found a new piece of Eden. Was that an Assassin's Creed reference? I think that was an Assassin's Creed reference. And yeah, if you're back already, that was a short meeting. I'm jealous. Jeez, ours like We walk in that room at like 7, and I don't leave until 10
They
sometimes.
gotta find the goat, then they gotta drag it.
That's part of the fun, you know. We release the goat into the room, and you have to catch it, but it's all greased up, like, you know. And then we don't get a knife or anything. Like, whoever catches it actually has to box the goat to death, you know. It's
Right, which is especially hard when it starts speaking in Latin.
yeah, the goat starts speaking in tongues, and you start levitating. It's a whole mess. Sun Wukong said, "Thank you guys for answering my questions. I was wondering what is the exact kind of Bible Wendigoon has. I know it's KJV, but what kind? What's the
well, this kind specifically is just a study Bible that my dad actually gave to me a while back. It is the KJV study Bible. It's by Barber Bibles. This one is. But I use all kinds of King James Bibles, different translations. My favorite is one of my favorites is the Salem Curban Bible. So the Salem Curban was put together by. Also, I should clarify for those that don't know, there's different translations, which is like the actual Bible, the part you read.
Yeah.
The different prints or different styles that I'm talking about is like there'll be these little footnotes or like little study glossaries that help at the bottom. That's the different editions of the same translation. So it's all King James Version. But the Salem Curban, like, as you're reading it, it will like draw lines from verses and then show you how that relates to like prophecies and revelations, how it relates to themes mentioned previously back. It's honestly a Bible that you could, if you wanted to read through the Bible while working your way through these through lines of thoughts of like concepts of God and salvation and all that, you could just using the glossary. It's pretty cool.
I use a Ryrie KJV as my study Bible. I really like it for a lot of the same reasons you like yours. It's got great footnotes. I will warn you and it has maps. That's a big reason I like the Ryrie is the maps. Cool. It's got maps, it's got chronologies, it's got tables. Like, it's a very well done study Bible. I will warn people, the timing is wrong, in my opinion. It places Exodus around 1500 BC. I place Exodus closer to 1200. If we're getting super specific, I place it around like the actual leaving Egypt around March of 1206 BC. Based on a solar eclipse that occurred in 1207, and then the fact that the first Passover happens after that, and that eclipse was in October of 1207. So it goes ahead. That's my dating for it. So take it as you will. But aside from the dating stuff, the Ryrie is fantastic in my opinion. Pedro Alatorre says, "Greetings from San Diego, California. I was raised Roman Catholic. What is the difference between Christianity and Roman Catholicism?" Christianity, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, other sects. So Christianity is the umbrella term. Then the specific tradition you follow, it falls under that. So Roman Catholicism is very similar to the Eastern Orthodoxy, as well as certain Protestant sects like Lutheranism and Anglicanism. It gets really granular on what the theological differences are. Most of the differences between these church groups stem from earthly politics more than they do from theological differences. There are certain ones like the Filioque, which is the belief that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son versus the belief that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son proceeds from the Father. Basically, the Holy Spirit is both Christ and God, and one is the Holy Spirit is just God, not Christ. And then, of course, all three of them are the same thing. The Trinity is one of the most difficult things to explain to anybody, and one of the most difficult things to possibly wrap your head around. The idea that God is Jesus is holy God and holy man, still the Son of God. I have yet to find a good, simple way to explain it to somebody that doesn't take me 3 hours. So,
the Trinity?
Yeah. Because there's the very simple way of explaining it, and if somebody accepts that, cool. But then when people are like, well, how does this work, and what about that, and how does this translate to this, you end up answering so many questions.
They are all three are one God, but are each in themselves holy God as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, and do you believe all three have existed since the dawn of time, or that God split himself?
I think they've all existed. I think that time is I'm nearly positive that with the way the Bible describes God and eternity and all that time is for us on Earth right now.
Gotcha. PJ Tab said, "Can we get the story of Cain and Abel?" We do have the story of Cain and Abel in the Genesis, in the beginning.
We do, yes.
It's not the first episode. I think it's the third. But if you go
Something
through,
like
if you
that.
go through the playlist, the Weird Bible playlist, it'll be in there.
We have talked about Cain and Abel.
Yeah, we have definitely talked about Cain and Abel. Let's see, favorite Prince of Egypt track. I'd have to go back and re-listen to it. It's been so long.
You that I call brother, whatever song that was. That's my favorite, yeah.
Charles Ware the Fourth says, "Finally been trying for months to catch y'all alive and wanting to ask, do y'all believe in the young Earth? Love the show. Keep up good work." I think that falls somewhat into the time thing you just said, but
I think what he's talking about, young Earth, which is, I guess, the philosophy.
6,000 years thing.
The 6,000 years, but yet, yes, the Earth, the pieces of it being naturally created would be older than that, but the Earth and the universe was made for our wonderment, so there's nothing to say that God didn't just make it in its current stage.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess, if that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, I think that is what he's asking. I take that first 6 days in Genesis, and I do not perceive those as 24-hour days. To me, those are a separation marker, in my opinion. That it's the first day is the first stage of creation, so to speak, and that those could have taken place over however many millions or billions of years, or of course there's the time dilation that occurs near gravitational wells. Like, I mean, I don't totally understand astrophysics, so I can't explain it super well on that account. But when I read it, I don't read it as those 6 days of creation or 24-hour days. I'm looking at that as this could be any number. This could be any span of time. It begins with the beginning of time. So
I also hope you don't think I'm just looking.
no,
at
I know you're looking
okay,
at you're looking at chat. Oh boy. Sometimes it just like scrolls for me. Pedro Alatorre says, "I tried going to church a few times, but didn't like the singing. There are churches that don't sing at all. I like listening to stories and learning about the Bible. What books, podcasts do you recommend to read, listen to learn about Roman Catholics?" I mean, Roman Catholicism, the more you learn about it, the less you're going to like it, to be perfectly honest, in my opinion. There's a lot of history that is not... a lot of their dogma comes out of medieval politics and times that they needed to get certain things for purposes of worldly security rather than spiritual security. Things like the donation of Constantine, like the investiture controversy, the iconoclast controversy, just a whole bunch of things like that. But as far as podcasts for learning about the Bible go, other than this one, I'm trying to think who I've listened to in the past. I mean, Frank Turek's a great speaker. If you want to listen to just people talk about Christianity, do you have anybody that comes to mind?
I'll be honest, I don't listen to a lot of biblical stuff outside of sermons, of course, and pastor friends that I have who just like hand me a CD. Yeah. Like they're not quite hip with the times, so to speak.
A CD.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anyone off the top of my head, but I really
I don't know where I was going with this, but
there's one guy on TikTok who does a really good job, who's Catholic, Thomas Wilcombe. I disagree with him, but I think he has a podcast, if I remember correctly. Another one would be Inspiring Philosophy here on YouTube. I don't know his exact like sectarian orientation, but I had him on the Lore Lodge and he was fantastic. Very well versed, very intelligent. I have some theological disagreements with him, but he was very good. I think he would be a good place to start. He's also funny. Like he's got a great attitude. Let's see. Pedro Alatorre said, "Love the podcast."
Also, thank you all so much. Still 450 followers this long.
Yeah,
question.
Like, you guys
That's
are
really
awesome.
cool.
Like,
thank you all.
This is
Appreciate
fantastic. Love the podcast. Listen to work like always tomorrow. Thanks for making me able to talk to my grandma and mother-in-law about the Bible.
Oh,
Happy to help.
Sweet. Thank you. Very kind.
Josh Parrish said, "Have you heard of the Urantia book? It's wild." Do you?
That might as well be gibberish to me.
What was it? How was it spelled? Urantia. Let me look it up and see. The Urantia book. Spiritual philosophical book that originated in Chicago sometime between 1924 and 1955. Nobody knows who wrote it. I will take a look at it. I've never 2,000 pages. Good lord. I will see what I can do about,
Yeah, you should be able to cover this in a night.
Yeah, exactly. At part 4, it gets into the life and teachings of Jesus. Got it. I'll have to look into it. But that is a good question. We got into the spirit science stuff at one point on Twitch, so that would be same idea, I guess. Okay. I think this should be the last one. Isai of Yedo said, would love to hear an episode on the harrowing of hell or on Melchizedek. I'm a pastor and Sunday school teacher in a Miami church. Love this podcast. Well, thank you. That's cool to have peers watching.
Yes, very cool. I appreciate it. I'm also a Sunday school teacher, so that means a lot. Glad that you're listening. And I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Melchizedek's an interesting one to go down the rabbit hole of. Fun fact, actually met a man who was delusional, who told me that he was a priest of the Melchizedek order. Thought that he was the reincarnation of Moses. That was fun.
Good.
So that was actually before I knew what Melchizedek was, too. So that was my introduction to him. Like, he made that up, but he didn't. That was years back, like in high school, before I got into studying the Bible. Melchizedek's interesting. The idea that it's this lineage of priests and this idea kind of as these watchers who kept Israel in line up until Christ.
Trust me, I've gone down the Melchizedek rabbit hole.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
It's very a lot of the spirit science stuff.
Yeah.
is rooted in
Melchizedek
work,
and all that. We will almost definitely talk about it
yeah.
at some point. And heaven and hell will also almost definitely talk.
We've got an entire episode on hell.
We do, yeah. We talked about hell for a long time. Yeah.
I think we'll definitely get there will be a point at which once we've gotten through all the books of the Bible, we will get to a point where we start talking about, later theology, so to speak, and how it falls in and falls out and all that. Respectfully, of course, we'll avoid making fun of anybody beyond factual,
beyond you
historical
calling
stuff.
the Roman Catholics illegitimate.
I didn't call them illegitimate. I said that they made some choices that I didn't love. Jess Finch asked, "What are your thoughts on ghosts?" One threw a chair at me once.
Thank you. I don't believe in ghosts as in wayward souls, like souls of humanity. I believe to be absent with the bodies, to be present with the Lord, as Christ said. I do believe in specifically demons interacting with the world quietly, unaware. I also believe that there are times throughout the Bible and potentially in the modern age where God gives a momentary lapse where people either go back and talk to people still on earth, or angels directly interact with people. I believe in supernatural like that, but not the idea that you die and then you just wander.
I definitely don't think of ghosts as souls trapped on earth. For me, it's more of a we mentioned dimensional tears and stuff like that, and the tearing of the space-time fabric. To me, it's more something along those lines, or perhaps a fragment of somebody. The hell's that? My little sister is calling me. That's some sort of fragmentation.
Just put her on, throw her in front of 500 people.
She would not like that. That's where I net out with it. I've definitely had some experiences that to me seemed like less than demon, more than wind. So that's where I am. I don't know. I don't think I would be confident in saying what I think the true nature is, but I do believe that there's something out there. Let's see. AZ Larson said, "Hey guys, love this. Keep up God's good work. Wendigoon read C.S. Lewis, That Hideous Strength for some good Christian horror. Part of his space trilogy. Also, the last act in Paralandra is awesomely creepy." That was addressed to you.
That hideous strength for some good Christian horror? What on earth?
Is that Hideous Strength the name of the
I
book?
imagine. That sounds incredible. Yeah, I'll check that out. C.S. Lewis is a
I need
cool
to
guy.
read some more Lewis. I've only read
Absolutely.
Chronicles of Narnia.
That sounds cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the $20, of course. Thank you all for the money.
Yes.
I'm a little tired. I've been working all day, which is why I'm not
We're
as
both
like, oh, thank
exhausted.
you for this. Thank you for that. We're working on a big project together, which is why we've been together the past few days.
Yeah.
And I'm a little sneepy, so I'm not. But the thank you.
And we
all
still
so
have to film things tonight.
Yes, we still have to go. So thank you all very much for the
start
donations and whatnot.
Jack Hune said, besides the KJV version, what other versions of the Bible would you recommend for a good study Bible? The versions that take the same methodology for translation, you would have the NKJV, the ASB, and the NASB, the ESV, and the NESV. Those are all reliable. The ESV and ASV are written in language that will be easier to understand. The new versions of all of them are updated for modernized English, whereas the ASV and the ESV actually are the same translation for the most part, but there were publishing issues. That's why they ended up being separate. The ASV and the ESV were created by a team of American and British scholars to try and create a standard version for the English-speaking world. The end result was they could not agree on publishing, and so they were published as two separate copies, but they use the same methodology. They translate directly from the sources. They don't go through a Latin or a Greek translation. Those are all very reliable, very good. And then for the Old Testament, if you want to get something that is a good reference for timing, a translation of the original Septuagint would be solid, because that'll give you, it's not direct from Hebrew, but it does have more contextual translation than the later direct translations do. For example, the Orthodox Church and I think the Roman Catholic Church both default to the Septuagint when there is a conflict between the Septuagint and newer translations because of that context. You have thoughts other than that?
I've done the KJV my whole life and have never fathomed another one. I'm pretty straightforward. If you'd ask me to, the question, what other versions would you recommend? The answer would be none. I'm pretty diehard.
Yeah, the Baptist in you.
It's literally the Baptist.
Do super chats to the best religious podcast count as a thing?
As tithing.
Tithing. Oh, I can't read.
No. Dude,
no.
Dude, we are not harboring the Lord's money. Do not put that on. Will
I donate a percentage of my income this year to the church?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Should you consider this tithing? No.
This is not this is not in the Lord's depository.
No, this is not going directly to God. So
I am not the steward of his money.
Yeah. A percentage will.
Give that to him. I also think you don't necessarily have to just throw it at your local church. You can go to charity.
Yeah.
The Lord said, if you give a loaf of bread in my name, I will bless you for it. Yeah. So that's obviously not referring to throwing it in the church offering plate, like donations, blessings of people. That's giving it to God. Throwing it at people who have enough money to rent a cabin for the weekend to shoot cool videos. No, do not put. That's not tithing. But put that on me.
But if you come,
that being said, I appreciate it immensely.
Very much.
It means the world. It allows us to do this. It means the most to me that it possibly can, and I appreciate it. But I am not God.
good clarification there. Things that would count as tithing, and also thank you for calling us the best religious podcast. I
appreciate that too. Thank you.
Stuff that I would say would count as tithing. You're in line at Starbucks and the person in front of you seems to be struggling to pull together the cash to pay for their latte, paying it forward to help somebody who's struggling, something like that. Simple as it is. Buying food for a homeless person on the street, buying a bus ticket for someone who can't afford it. Little stuff like that. That's going to be the same kind of thing. If you're doing it because it's the right thing to do, that counts in my opinion. But also, very simply, if your church is trying to do a youth trip to a national park or something like that, then you donate $20, I think that also would count. Help your community first, because if your community is strong, your community can help other communities.
To clarify, this is the KJV. People were like, did he say KGB?
A lot of people
It's
make
not the
that
KGB,
mistake.
it's the KJV.
All
King
right.
James Version.
That appears to be all of them, which is good because
We have other stuff to do.
we
I
have
will
other
say
stuff
the
to
last
do.
question that I saw people asking, but not a super chat, was when will you all do more missing 411 content?
it's funny you ask that.
Well, I wonder why we're in a cabin together in the Smoky Mountains. It's definitely not for weird missing person stuff, but very soon.
Very soon.
Yes. So,
All right.
quite, you could even say right now, perhaps, and
Perhaps.
for us at least.
Perhaps we are filming something in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank
you
you
all
for
for
those who
being here.
supported the show with super chats. And we will catch you on the next one, except for Benjamin Chapman just said, can you cover the story of Noah's Ark? I think that one is in the Genesis episode, but I feel like we definitely did a flood episode.
We did a flood episode.
Let me see.
It's better.
Nope, that's not what I wanted. Let's see, flood. Nope, that's not it.
We talked about in the Genesis one, I'm pretty sure.
I know there was a flood video somewhere. I just need to.
Oh, on your channel.
Well, I feel like we did it together, but maybe not. Playlists,
I know we talked about it.
Weird Bible.
I would provide commentary, but I'm not only going to go for like 4 hours.
I know tonight we got more stuff to do. Maybe we didn't have one. All right, I would.
No. I know for a fact me and you talked about first. Maybe
it would be in. The Genesis episode,
we
wouldn't it?
might have done it on a Lore Lodge episode because I've been on that a few times too.
Oh, that's also possible.
I think that's what it was.
I'll find it. I
Put
will
in
find
the
it,
description.
and
Okay.
I'll find it and I'll put it in the description of this video. I'm sure that we could do an episode on specifically the flood,
Yeah.
but yes, okay. I recently learned that Noah took 7 pairs of each clean animal, not just 2 of each animal. I have not heard that one, but I'd be interested to.
Yeah, he
So,
brought 7.
7 of.
Yeah,
each
because
clean
they
animal?
had to for while they were on the ark, they had to do the sacrifice.
Oh,
they
okay.
brought
So
them
7,
in. Yeah.
7 of the sacrificial animals.
Yes, 7 of the
alongside
sacrificial,
the others.
because they
Got
were
it.
on there for 7 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say
they did 1 a year.
7 years on the ark.
5 years. They were in there.
They were on the ark for 40 days and 40 nights. I
No,
thought.
it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. They were in there for 5 years.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, they were in there for that long. And then whenever they got on the mountaintop, that's when they let out the birds and they would wait to see if it would come back and all that.
How did I miss that?
Your own fault.
I mean, it is my fault.
Grow
I guess,
up,
but I'm
grow up, I
guess, guess I need to go reread.
I think it was
Genesis
5 years if I remember correctly. They were on there. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah, I knew
And
that.
then it took that 5 years for the water to go down.
I need to go read that again.
Okay.
It's bugging me. But all right, that's it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right.
Your donations mean the world. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We will see you guys on the next one. Have a nice night.